evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the desert of Phoenix, Arizona, as we prepare for the 6th race of the season for the G-Force Sim Racing Series Grand National Series powered by the Juice Box. We are getting set for the Arizona 125 here today, 125 laps at this very slick racetrack. This is going to be a good one. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, the sun has been beating on this track all day long, and these drivers in practice, they've been slipping and sliding. We expect nothing less in qualifying and in the race.
Yeah, it is extremely slick for these drivers. It's going to be 87 degrees track temp. 79 is the outside temp for these drivers, and that's just here for qualifying. That's not even touching on the fact that the setup that all these drivers are going to be working on is going to be extremely loose and hard to handle. We've been seeing a lot of drivers during practice out of one just looping it around, coming into the infield grass. We're on the Legacy Phoenix track, so the grass is back and the front straightaway is on the straightaway.
Now, in the first few races, we kind of had a cap of the number of drivers that were able to participate, but the last couple of weeks, that cap has been removed. We saw a lot of drivers in last week's field at Richmond. We got a lot of drivers lined up for today's race at Phoenix. Couple new faces popping into our grid as well as we're preparing for qualifying here. So, I mean, you're getting ready to go out there, lay down a Q lap. What do you think these guys could have possibly learned in practice that they're going to be able to apply here to try and get on that front row?
I think it's just take it easy. Don't oversteer into corner number one. And if anything, just don't slam on the gas when you're trying to exit out of the corner. It's a lot easier being said than done, though, because we've been just seeing it. A lot of our front runners, our top 5 fastest cars during practice, they were trying to find that edge of how much pressure could you put on the gas. They were finding that there was really not much you could do except for let off and wait until you're probably out of the corner completely before you can get on the gas.
We saw it come down to a closing lap pass. Gerald Campbell last week at Richmond being able to pass Bo Brady to pick up yet another victory this season, his second of this series, and subsequently opened up his points lead by quite a margin. He's close to about 90 points. I believe the official number is 86 points over Dallas Myhan. So what do we see out of that 25 car here today? Is it going to be a situation with what we've seen with the track conditions of just kind of survive this racetrack, or does he go full out, try and win this thing and possibly wreck Tryon?
I think it's more of a survival. I think for most of these drivers, it's survive and hope that you're there at the end. With how loose we've been seeing these cars, if you see a car spinning out, it's going to be a question of, do they spin out completely on the track surface, bringing out a yellow, or are they going to be finding themselves in the grass spinning and staying green? It's going to be a lot of that limbo throughout our race here for 125 laps, but that is going to be a lot for these drivers to worry about. And the fact that we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers spinning, I think track position, most important thing for these drivers. So when you're going to be coming in for those new tires, the new and cold tires that they're going to be working with might actually be a huge disadvantage when you come into the pits. And then it's going to take a while for them to warm up before you can really start taking off from everyone else.
Absolutely agree. We're waiting for our first car to head out here onto the track. Of course, this is going to be very much like what we had with the qualifying session last week at Richmond, where a driver will go out, they'll have their warm-up lap, and then they'll be able to run one lap around this track. That is their one and done, which, in honesty, at this track especially makes sense, because I very much doubt that you'd be able to go out there for a 2-lap run and have that second lap be any faster than the first lap, just based on how abrasive this track is going to be on those tires.
Yeah, and with the fact that the drivers are going to be so slick and sliding around so much, it's going to be difficult. And also, if you're going to be sliding a lot, got to be careful if your car slides and comes up into the wall. If you also lose too much control of your car, that could be another penalty that will actually negate and invalidate your lap. So your one chance could be ruined by a simple mistake. And we've been seeing that throughout all the weeks so far this season, is the fact that drivers hitting the wall has cost them greatly on qualifying. I think Kyle Johnson is a great point of that in the 88 machine, as he's someone that has qualified outside, actually didn't even qualify, started all the way back in last place and still finishing up in our top 3.
Not really sure where my head was. I thought I said last week was Richmond. That was 3 weeks ago. Actually, Las Vegas was last week. My apology there. So another thing that I've been noticing with these drivers here today as well, we know the fact that these drivers do not have fast repairs for this series. And we've seen a lot of the hits that were taken in practice, ripping the front end of these race cars off. A couple of times I saw rear deck lids just flapping in the air after contact. You've got with this being the traditional older Phoenix with the grass on the back straightaway, you've actually got a set of tire barrier walls down there on the inside of the back straightaway. So what is the likelihood of drivers taking those high impact wrecks into the respective walls on the inside and outside line that they're even going to have a car capable of continuing on?
Yeah, that's one thing I'm kind of concerned about is we've actually seen throughout the season some drivers not even thinking about slowing down when a caution comes out. And we've seen that with a lot of different drivers, and a lot of horrific crashes have happened of ruining some drivers' days. I mean, I think the one that comes to mind first has got to be the one with Tom Bourne and Nick Radar, where Nick Radar did not slow down at all and just ran into the 54 machine at Bristol. So it's going to be a focus of hoping if you do spin out that the drivers around you react in a pretty proper manner of slowing down and trying to evade one another. But you never really know. It's iRacing. There's not money invested into these cars. It's all virtual. So some of these drivers thinking I could just full send it and good luck to myself.
As well, with it being the legacy Phoenix with that grass in the back straightaway, at a lot of racetracks we go to that are Phoenix related, you have actually asphalt down there for drivers to be able to run down, cut a little bit of the track, gain some time. With the fact that that is grass there, it's going to make space much more limited for these drivers as well.
Yeah, and these drivers really going to have to be worried about everyone else, making sure everyone else has space for the first half of this race. And then we all know once you get past the halfway marker, the intensity level raises, and there's not a lot of give and a lot of taking for these drivers. Look like everyone is getting lined up. Dallas Myhan should be our first driver to take off here as they're getting done with some late driver meeting talks, and then we will get underway with qualifying here.
Dallas Myhan, we talked about this last week at Las Vegas, was one of the first drivers to actually go out there. Usually doesn't lay down the fast lap times in practice, subsequently goes out early in qualifying, but is one of those guys that we always expect to be up there at the front in the closing stages, comes into this race second in the point standings. And I mean, the numbers, they just kind of don't match up. Average starting position here in the first 5 races of 10th place, but an average finishing position of 6th.
Yeah, and Dallas, the reason why he qualifies so early is because he's notoriously known for showing up to these races slightly later than everyone else. So that makes it to where sometimes he can put a practice lap time that's not as fast as everyone else, or he just doesn't put a time on like he did today, showed up late, and now waiting for him to get out there. Another factor for qualifying that I don't think we've really touched on that much is if someone's having internet issues, if we find a car that is blinking on track, that lap will not count, and it's going to invalidate it, and it's going to put him in the back of the field.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here today, just based off of what we saw in practice, how many drivers are going to be able to not only lay down a lap time to get the pole, but how many drivers are going to be able to put down a lap time that's even going to be read, because you said, connection problems, but not only that, I mean, we've seen turn 2 and turn 4 here in practice be such huge trouble spots with drivers to getting off the corner, and you touched on it before. Just kind of survive, keep your car in one piece. That's something these drivers are going to have to do here in qualifying, let alone the 125 lapper later on.
Yeah, it actually might be a smart decision to find yourself in the back and just wait out this race. If based off of practice and the way the cars were running and what the drivers have been saying, and the fact that this racetrack just seems extremely loose, it might be a better factor to just stay in the back, let everyone wreck in front of you, and then make your final charge with about 30 laps to go with freshest tires out there. That's one of the strategies that some of these drivers might be thinking, that they're going to be starting in the back. But you know that we've got those front runners that are always going to be pushing to stay in the lead. Gerald Campbell, Blaine Atkin, other drivers get throw out there. Bo Brady has been throwing his hat in there as always a contender for the win, but has just been having some awful luck of finishing up front lately. And it kind of has had some wins stolen away from this 20 machine.
And obviously, we'll talk about this some more when we eventually get to the race. But as we're waiting for Dallas Myhan to still go out there and begin this qualifying session, you talked about track position being so important here today. Thing that these drivers are going to really have to kind of balance out, especially if we go into, let's say, a 10-lap run. Those tires here today, with how slick the conditions are going to be, they are going to be pretty worn, even after 10 laps of racing. But if a caution comes out between those 10 laps, you're going to have to make the decision, do I want to come down? Do I want to get that fresh rubber, have that grip underneath me, and take a chance of being back there in the proverbial eye of the storm? Or do I want to run the risk of trying to figure out what the car is going to feel like breaking into turn 1 on 10, 15 lap older tires?
I think a lot of these drivers are thinking of just splitting this race in half, trying to save a set just in case a late caution comes out to give you that opportunity. I mean, Gerald Campbell, that's how he won last week at Las Vegas, saved his tires, had the tires and the best tires at the end to make that charge and make that final lap pass. And that's been the call that seems to be winning a lot of drivers the race, is saving the set and having the best tires at the end of the race. But, things could possibly change here at Phoenix just based on the fact that these drivers seem extremely loose, and cautions look like they're going to be the real factor of this whole entire race.
We saw earlier on in the G-Force Vintage Cup Series how loose the 87 cars setups were. We kind of played that into the favor of Blaine Atkin. We saw in the earlier races here of the Grand National Series that kind of same loose entry into the corners. Myhan finally onto the track, and again, we kind of gave a little bit of an advantage to Blaine Atkin, but there's been an update here on iRacing as far as the tires are concerned that may take that advantage away now.
Yeah, the tires look like they're actually going to be they're going to be something to keep our eye on for sure, as really the tires are something that's going to be evolving. Also, the damage for these cars, as Myhan has now started his lap. The damage model is another factor for these drivers because it was actually a lot more durable to make contact and still be well. And the new model that just came out, the more contact you make, the lot more it's going to affect your car aero-wise and also while it dries, as Dallas Myhan coming out of turn number 4.
I'm kind of straddled the yellow line there through 3 and 4. See the back end want to kick out off corner exit as he'll hit the line and start off qualifying with a 28.769. So that'll set the bar here for the rest of the field to try and beat, as looks like Randy Koking in the 19, next car to roll off.
Yeah, that was not an extremely quick time based off what practice laps were looking like. That actually would put Dallas Myhan second fastest of the lobby. So showing that it is more of a survival game, I think that Dallas Myhan is going for here. And we'll see what the rest of the field does. Like you said, Koking on track.
I would hazard a guess that this is going to play very similar to what we saw at Las Vegas last week, where who's going to be the brave soul to try and go down there to the yellow line, the inside line, because that's where the car is going to be at its lightest and more likely to spin out. I think you're really going to see most of your drivers run that middle, maybe upper middle groove, especially if you're 1 and 2.
Yeah, but I think a lot of these drivers are feeling a little bit more of, hey, we're all locked in. There's not a heat race. There's not a limit on drivers that can be racing here. 43 is the most, but we're not at that marker here. So I think a lot of these drivers thinking, let's push it as hard as I can for some. And Randy Koking crossed the line at 28.995. Going to be putting him second on the board. It's still not the fastest of lap times, just off of what Dallas put down.
I see here the 00 of Jason Houndshell coming around. That was the start of his warm-up lap. So we're going rapid fire qualifying here. As soon as one driver comes around and begins their timed lap, they send out another driver to begin their warm-up lap. Should get the qualifying session over a little bit sooner than usual, especially with the fact that now we've got such huge fields here in the Grand National Series.
Yeah, I think they're also sending these drivers out 28.364. Is the fact that they kind of had a longer drivers meeting for everyone here across the line. It's going to be a 28.342. As that time got updated, that's going to put the 00 top of the board, and that's a decent lap time. That should be a top 10 time for Jason Houndshell there.
Jason qualified really well last week at Las Vegas, also 8th in points coming to this race, as we're now looking at the 48 of Jonathan Leach, made his first start of the season last week.
Yeah, Jonathan Leach, someone that looking for a decent day today. I think a top 15 is what this 48 machine is looking for. A little wide through 3 and 4, going very conservative here. This is not looking to be a quick time. A little loose out of 4 and cross the line. It's going to be a 28.57. Nope, big updated 28.596 for the 48 machine, second on the board.
Matthew Rodriguez making his first start of the season, one of our broadcast colleagues in that Luminary Racing Dodge. He's going to cross the line to begin his timed lap. One of the few Dodges that are in the field, I think there's only 2, maybe 3 Dodges that are in the field here, is way up the track he went there in turn 2.
Yeah, I expect a lot of these drivers to go conservative through 3 and 4 here, as Matt Rod going to be close to that yellow line, not really hugging it like we've seen others do. And coming out of 4, that's a really good 3 and 4. So 32 looks solid through the exit.
See what he can make up there with a good couple last corners. 28.701 right now puts him third on the board of the 5 drivers that have gone out, as now the DuPont colors. It's going to be interesting to kind of differentiate between Kevin Ruff's 83 and Gerald Campbell's 25. Similar schemes as, man, really loose off of 4 was that 83 car.
Yeah, that's going to be the start of the warm-up. That's going to be the end of the warm-up lap, start of the qualifying time for this 83 machine. And yeah, there's a few DuPont machines that we have been seeing throughout the season, so not surprised to see another one as Roth coming through 3 and 4, trying to get as low as what we were seeing Matthew Rodriguez running. A little bit lower, hitting that apex right at the yellow line, coming out a lot smoother than what that warm-up lap time across the line.
Kevin Ruff's going to cross with a 28.498 right now, second to Jason Hounshell. And speaking of Jeff Gordon schemes, another one now gets ready to put down their qualifying laps. That's a 0.7 of Seth Harrelson, who, wow, got really loose there in the center of 1 and 2. Harrelson coming into today's race, currently situated 17th in points.
Yeah, that slide is going to be hindering Harrelson, as now coming through 3 and 4, extremely low off the apron. And yeah, that's going to be hurting that 0.7 machine. Just got a little bit eager going into the corner, and that's going to hurt him a ton, especially with not the greatest turn 1 across the line. Looks like that might be a 30 time.
Not quite. Just under 30. 29.942. Currently the slowest of the 7 drivers that have gone out so far. And now, heading out on track, it's going to be the 57 of Caden Thor. And we've been really impressed with what Caden's been able to do the last couple of weeks. He was run up in the top 10 a couple of weeks ago at Bristol before getting involved in a wreck, and was very solid last week at Las Vegas.
Yeah, Thor's been one of our most consistent qualifiers, I would say. As he blinks out, that is very concerning to see for Caden, because if he blinks like that, I think this might have invalidated his lap already. We'll see if he comes across the line here, but his 57 machine, it's going to be rough if his internet's going to be like that through qualifying. But Thor's been one of the more consistent, I think one of our top 3 in qualifying of all the drivers in our league so far.
Caden Thor has an average qualifying position of 7th place, but to your point, I think when he disappeared, it was while crossing the start-finish line, so that lap time that he's going to lay down here may be invalidated. We'll see if it does indeed score him or not. Does. It will score him with a 28.448 right now, second on the board for that M&M's machine.
Still a full 10th off of what Jason Hounshell did, and really that time that Hounshell put down, that is such a quick time compared to what the rest of the field did during qualifying. So, I mean, during practice, and is a very solid time the double zero has put down, as now it's going to be AJ DiMarzio that's going to be starting up with the 5 machine.
Marzo coming into this race currently in the 23rd position in points. Usually not the strong suit is qualifying for this number 5 machine. Average qualifying position of outside of the top 20, 24th to be exact. Woo! Got down there on the paint line. I was noticing that a couple of guys early on were kind of straddling their tires over that paint line because it is slick.
Yeah, it's extremely slick, but 4th on the board goes for the 5 machine, as even with the slickness, able to hold on for now.
Nice lap there for AJ DiMarzio as we're waiting to see who the next driver is going to be going out there.
It's going to be Nick Radar that's going to be going out in that 29 machine.
2 colors on that number 29 car. The Chevy sponsorship. I believe that's Tasmanian Devil there on the hood of that car.
Showing off a little bit more schemes for these drivers. I mean, there's so many schemes to pick out from for a lot of these drivers. I mean, the ARCA cars have some pretty, notable and amazing schemes to always look back throughout the years.
Nick Radar coming into today's race currently finds himself in the 20th position in the standings. As whoa, that's going to hurt his warm-up lap there. It's not going to have him very well up to speed when he crosses the line here to start his timed lap.
No, that is going to be hurting this 29 machine a ton, and he is not looking good. With that slide, it's going to make it even worse through these corners. Somehow survives through corner number 1, now through 2. Nick Radar, he's going to have his hands full here through 3 and 4.
Run about a half groove up off that yellow line. Doesn't even get down close to it. Again, gets loose there off of 4, but not nearly to the extent that he had in his warm-up lap, as he's going to clock in the 29.480 right now. 9th on the board of the 10 drivers that have gone on to take time, and Now heading out there is going to be the number 81 of Shane Lake. Shane Lake had a pretty decent run last week at Las Vegas, was struggling a couple of weeks before that, but pretty solid footing now that he's got underneath him. We'll see if he can follow that up here at Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, Shane Lake looks like he's much better at the mile and a half, which concerns me. We're at the mile track of Phoenix. It's the legacy course. We'll see if Lake's got it. So far, looking stable through 1 and 2, 3 and 4. He looks like he's gingerly making his way through the corner. That's coming out, keeps his car stable, and it looks like stable is the much quicker time. Coming across the line, it's going to be putting him 5th on the board with a 28.589.
Lap time there for the driver that comes into this race, 22nd in the standings, and now 11th in points. Anthony Guarneri trying to knock on the door of the top 10. He's the next one out.
Yeah, Guarneri's been extremely quick in the first about 3 races of this season. Kind of fallen into the middle pack a little bit. We'll see if this 16 machine can rebound. But Guarneri seemed to be very quick at the start of the season. I'm expecting him to pick it up at some point here in the middle of the season.
Guarneri's qualifying and finishing averages very similar to each other. An average starting spot of 13th, average finishing spot of 12th. So in both cases of finishing, starting, and point standings positions, knocking on the door of that top 10 as he's going to come around out of turn 4. Little wiggle there, but not too bad as he'll hit the line. This should be up inside of the top 5. 4th on the board right now, 28.526.
And now going to be on track is going to be James Gosson. And this 85 machine trying to improve based off what last week was showing for this 85 car, and we'll see what he's got coming through the warm-up lap, coming around 3 and 4.
Needless to say, last week was a struggle for James Goshen. Now, he ended up getting involved in an early wreck. Other drivers that got involved in wrecks later on, he was able to pick up positions, subsequently finished 19th last week, but that was after a 22nd place starting position. We'll see what he's able to do here. Looked nice and steady, actually, there through 1 and 2. Was able to run down the bottom, but that almost looked a little too slow coming off of turn 2.
Yeah, that was not his warm-up lap. That was his time. Now it's going to be a 28.709 for Goshen, and that's going to place him 9th on the board. Now on track is going to be Benjamin Staples and the 21 machine, who gets loose out of 1, and that's the spot I was talking about, of the drivers getting loose and out of shape during practice, and that is looking to be continuing here even during qualifying.
And I would assume that because of him teleporting back to pit road, that is his lap time aborted. He would be starting at the rear of the field because of that.
Yeah, that is going to be making the 21 machine start at the end of the line. Now the 4, James Roth, going to be on track with his warm-up time.
So tough break there for the 21 of Benjamin Staples. So he will be starting at the rear of the field. Staples, I believe, was trying to make his first start of the season. Yes, he was. Staples, I think, actually was in line to make a start either at Richmond or Las Vegas, but actually did not get onto the racetrack. So he is officially going to be turning his first laps in the Grand National Series here today. Is James Roth, kind of one of those under-the-radar drivers week after week, up there inside of the top 15, 16th in the points coming into this race.
Yeah, Roth bounces around 8th to around 12th place all race long usually, and this 4-car expecting a lot from him here with coming across the line. That lap looked good. 2nd on the board with a 28.380. So close, 300ths off of what Jason Hounshell has put down.
Nice lap there for James Roth, who coming into this race had an average starting spot of 16th. So he may, with that lap time, be starting up inside of the top 10. As we're looking now at the number 7 JBL machine. That is Jackson Mclaren looking to make his 2nd start of the year.
Yeah, Jackson Mclaren, what didn't look like he had a lot of speed in the first half of last week, but had the consistency to put himself looking like he was going to have a great finish. Coming across the line here, though, the 7 machine, that was a decent lap for himself. Should put him in the middle of the board. And 3rd on the board for Mclaren with a 28.404.
Starting to see the lap times pick up here. That's what we expected to see. Of course, a lot of these drivers that we get closer to the end of the session were drivers that were up at the top of the board in terms of practice speeds. Is now Peyton Hill in that NOS Energy number 84 Chevrolet out there. Peyton coming into this race 29th in the standings.
Going to be trying to run low, but that was kind of a distracting pass, trying to get by the 7. See if that affects Hill at all. Coming across the line, waiting for the time to come up. 10th on the board so far, 28.661.
New faces in the field. Here's another one. Number 34 of Robert Kenny taking to the track.
Yeah, Robert Kenny, I've seen him race in other leagues, feels comfortable here at Phoenix. We'll see what this 34 machine's got for us here. Part of that luminary crew of Matthew Rodriguez that joined for today's race. Coming out of 4, looking smooth for this 34 machine. Across the line, we wait for the time to come up. 4th on the board, with a 28.341. That is a decent lap for this 34 machine.
Saw Dallas Myhan second in points out there. He was the first of our top 3 in the standings. Here is third place in points, John Whitendorf. Coming into this race, he is a total of, I believe if my calculations are right, 92 points behind Gerald Campbell for the current points lead. Nope, correct that. He is 102 points behind Gerald Campbell. So certainly looking to bounce back into the championship picture here at Phoenix as he's going to clock in. Top of the board, 28.240.
Yeah, John Whitendorf has been quick all season long. Has been racing around where we've been seeing Gerald Campbell, and it seems like they're always close to one another. It's just bad luck has been hitting this 33 machine. Now on track, it's going to be Jake Hounshell.
You want to talk about a driver that's had bad luck hit him, that would be the 0-2. It all kind of started back at Richmond where he got involved in a wreck, lost the points lead. He's been slowly free-falling through the standings, now finds himself 6th in points coming into this race.
Yeah, and Jake's been one of those drivers that is known to not always have the best qualifying time, but be there at the end. Second on the board, though, for that 0-2 of Jake Hounshell with a 28.312. Second on the board, and that's a great time for himself. Now on track is going to be Payton Hamlet in the 10 machine.
And looking right now, it looks like the rivalry continues between the Hounshell brothers. Last week, it was Jason who outqualified his brother, and now it looks like it's going to be Jake who's going to outqualify his brother. As Peyton Hamlet coming into this race, currently 31st in the point stands. We'll see what this 10 car can do as he comes off of turn 4. Got those left sides down on that paint line.
Yeah, it was looking good through the center of the corner, but just hugged the yellow line a little bit too much, but still could be a quick time as we wait for the results. 8th on the board with a 28.488. That was just when he came back down from the apron. That's what bobbled him and made him lose a lot of time. Now it's going to be Tom Bourne, another who's not a new face, but someone who's been involved in bringing some of his friends of Robert Kenny and Matthew Rodriguez.
Saw him make his debut back at Charlotte. Comes into this race currently 19th in the point standings as he's going to bring that G Fuel Chevrolet off the corner. I'm sorry, G Fuel Dodge rather. Hits the line. Is going to clock in with a third place run right now, 28.340. So just about a full 10th off the current pole lap.
Yeah, this is when I'm expecting a lot of drivers to just be pushing at Whitendorf's time because these are the top drivers. Jeff Green now on track, starting his lap going through 2. And this 2 machine has been quick during qualifying and quick during the race, but also bad luck's been hitting the 2 machine besides that win back at Bristol.
He is the first former winner to head out onto the track here today. Our Bristol winner going to cross the line here, officially clocks in with 28.218. That's good enough to put his Chevrolet to the top of the board.
Now it's going to be Bo Brady starting his lap time. And like I said, I think from this point on, we might be seeing every driver beat out the next lap after lap after lap because they are so quick. Everyone now for our final 10 are just going to be someone to watch out for. Bo Brady, a driver who's had a chance to win the last 2 weeks, but it's been beaten out on the final lap both those times.
Absolutely, yeah. Lost to Jeff Green at Bristol, lost to Gerald Campbell at Las Vegas. Been really good in his qualifying program as well as his finishing program as he'll bring that Miller Lite machine to the line. Going to clock in third right now, 28.266. And, we saw a lot of drivers hovering around the 28.4s, 28.5s. All of a sudden, our last 3 drivers have clocked up there in the 28.2s.
Now it's going to be Christopher Morris Jr. in the 3 machine coming out of corner numbers 3 and 4. Coming across the line. going to be putting the 3 machine fourth on the board with a 28.274. And now on track, it looks like it's going to be Joseph Kazi.
From one junior scheme to another, of course, Christopher Morris, as we documented, I believe was back at Bristol, did not take part in that event, so he's trying to kind of bounce back from all the positions he lost. 14th in points coming into this race, as man, Kazi's car looked very unstable through the center of 1 and 2. Kazi coming into this race currently 13th in points.
Yeah, through 1, he kind of bounced off that yellow line, scrubbing off some time, now running a little bit higher through 3 and 4 here, and get loose! Able to hold on, though. Great save by Kazi, but the time scrubbed off by a ton.
One of those cases where I wish every driver in their cockpit were wearing yellow gloves so you could just watch the hands work as they try and save the car off of turn 4. But Kazi going to clock in currently with a 18th place run, as we're looking at now the 88 of Kyle Johnson. New colors on his machine.
Kyle Johnson, we've been seeing him, periodically not having the best qualifying time. Did have it last week, though, that put him in a better position. We'll see if the 88 machine can stay off the wall. A little loose out of 2. We'll see what this 88 machine has. He's entering now 3.
12th in points coming into this race is Kyle Johnson. Kind of ironic, 14th, 13th, 12th in points. All went out there, one after the other is coming out of turn 4. Kyle Johnson, let's see where he's going to clock in. Second.
Oh.
4 1,000ths off according to our intervals.
That is close. Wicked fast these drivers are, and it looks like the next driver that should be going out is going to be Rocky Boyd, as we're waiting to see for the 77 machine to head out. But man, that is a very close time from Kyle Johnson. And it really was that smoothness through 3 and 4 that helped out this 88 machine. I think 1 and 2 could have been a little bit smoother, a little bit of shakiness through the center of 1, and that's what hurt this 88 machine from taking the point of these drivers. But it actually looks like Hank Steinmiller, the 63 machine, is going to be on track.
I just saw that car trying to run the top side, get as much speed off the corner as possible, and got loose, so any momentum gained was maybe lost there with that little bit of a slip up as Steinmiller comes into this race 4th in the point standings. And I've been watching a lot of these guys that have been up there top of the board. Oh, this is going to hurt unless he can get it on the brakes. Wow.
Able to get on the brakes, but I think that is going to cost him his time. Going to be starting back with Staples, and this has been the issue with Hank Steinmiller this year, is the fact that he has been struggling with qualifying and not putting himself the best opportune time to have his chance to start up front and stay up front. He's always going to be working his way to the front of the line. Shane Tarian, though, in this 38 machine on track. This driver is someone to watch out for. Was 3rd fastest on the board during practice. And excited to see what our top 3 are going to be bringing now, but off the corner again.
Almost identical area that Hank Steinmiller got loose off of turn 2. Arian able to keep his car from hitting the wall, but obviously this is going to be a throwaway lap. I think he is going to come around here, though, to cross the start-finish line, so that way he would be starting ahead of other drivers that didn't necessarily make it back to complete their timed laps.
And Shane Tarian now going to be coming down the front stretch, across the line. We'll see if this time counts and where it's going to be putting the 38 machine. But I don't know if that time's going to count at all because of how out of shape he got. Also might have been due to blinking. His next car on track is going to be Blaine Atkin, one of our favorites here, who's been having such quick machines. Our second best qualifying runner, I would say, of the whole entire field. But man, Atkin has been quick, and we'll see if we can carry that on.
Our Richmond winner there. He's actually one of 3 drivers that has an average starting position inside of the top 10. 6th average starting position so far for our Richmond race winner, as he's going to cross the line. 14th. That's not the lap time we quite expected to see out of the 05 car.
Yeah, it wasn't the fastest that we've seen him be, but now starting his time, that's going to be the 25 of Gerald Campbell, who's been having an average qualifying position of 1.4. That is insane to think on our tracker. It says he's been averaging a full position almost every week. Let's see if he can get it here.
He comes into this race as the points leader. We mentioned coming off a victory last week at Las Vegas, his 2nd of the season, as that DuPont Chevrolet coming down the wire. Will he jump to the top of the board and steal the pole from Jeff Green? Yes, he will. 28.208 for Gerald Campbell.
And our Dirty Racing Podcast Pole Position Award goes to Gerald Campbell again here at Phoenix. This 25 machine just does not know how to slow down as another pole position goes to himself.
It will be Gerald Campbell and Jeff Green that are going to lead the field to the green flag here for this 125 lap duel in the desert. And talked about starting track position. There's a lot of big names that are going to be starting in the middle to rear of the field. So now for them, the question is, how hard do you push it to try and get through traffic?
I'm expecting a lot of these drivers to be pushing it pretty hard at the start, just trying to get up front as quick as possible, try to get out of the danger zone. But with them pushing as hard as they might be, it might be putting them more in a tricky situation than they really want to be in. So it's going to be complicated on how they want to go through the field. Do they wait for the cautions for everyone else to wreck out and so they can get through that? Or do you continue just pushing forward with your natural speed?
Now, we saw pretty much the entirety of our top 15 put down lap times here in this qualifying session to run in this race. One name that notably is missing. 10th in the standings, Tyler Riggs, unable to make the event here tonight. So big opportunity for drivers that are just outside of the top 10, like Anthony Guarneri, Kyle Johnson, Joseph Causey, Christopher Morris. They're within striking distance to move up into the top 10 at the conclusion of the day here at Phoenix.
Yeah, a lot of drivers we're going to be keeping our eye on how they're going to be doing here. But man, this is going to be interesting to see how the drivers, like we stated, that didn't have the best quality, how they're going to be working through traffic. And will that ensue and be the catalyst of some of these cautions that come out? Because some of these drivers might feel comfortable and confident and making some passes going 3, maybe even 4 wide at times, when other drivers just want to stay in cruise control and just wait things out.
Showing here your starting lineup for today's event. A couple of drivers did not make it around to complete their lap times, and just want to thank both Hank Steinmiller and Shane Tyrion. I had mentioned that there was those tire barrier walls down there on the inside of the back straightaway. You couldn't really see them when these drivers were out there because both the 63 and the 38 spun down there. You were able to see that those were there, and hit those. There's no doubt about it. Your day is going to be over because in practice, drivers that hit that, it just rips the car apart.
Yeah, it's going to completely tear it up, and especially with the new damage model, we've been seeing it all season long. It's been pretty explosive when these cars make major contact, and the way the cars just explode with all the damage particles and the pieces breaking off their machine. So expecting to see that here, especially with the fact that we've been seeing that same spot out of 2 is where these drivers have been having most of their issues, and expecting that to carry it forward here during this 125 lap race.
I mentioned the fact that we ended up having almost the entirety of our top 15 in points out here. The 24 of Ernest King was actually in the session at one point. He is not currently in there. We did not see him in qualifying. So that is 15th in the standings. That also looks like he will not be taking the green flag here tonight. And for these drivers, they're going to be, I believe, having 2 pace laps here at Phoenix. As you mentioned, with the configuration, I think it does qualify as far as track length a little bit in the short track category, so it gives these drivers some time to think. I think that right now this is a beautiful scenario for Gerald Campbell. He has a huge points lead coming to this race. He's got good starting track position, so even if he makes a little bit of a mistake here today, it more than likely is not going to cost him the points lead.
Well, we've seen Gerald Campbell use the strategy of save his tires immediately, and that's the question of will he do it here? Pace car pulls off. We're going this time by. Green flag out in the air as the 25 machine takes off.
Let's see what these drivers are going to have to deal with on the cold tires, on the hot track conditions, as the battle's going to be for second between Kyle Johnson and Jeff Green. Campbell starts to pull away.
And we're starting to see Campbell immediately thinking, I got to go. And this might be a sense of what happened at Richmond. The last time we were at a track similar to Phoenix was that we saw Gerald Campbell back off and let off and we see Blaine Atkin just pull away. This time around, the battle for second place continues on as Jeff Green gets a little out of shape.
He did. Got a little loose there. Almost got up into the wall off of turn 4. Almost came down into the passenger side of the 88 of Kyle Johnson, but he gathered it up. Loses second, about to lose third. Bo Brady about to complete the pass and does.
Yeah, and these cars still battling back and forth as it's going to be Junior on the inside of Morse Jr. Going to be trying to get by Green, and looks like he will do so. Those drivers on the outside, though, they're still holding strong, trying to get down as soon as possible.
Everybody trying to fight for the bottom of the racetrack. Green will finally clear into the 5th position behind Christopher Morse Jr. As soon as I say that, Jake Houndshell drives it deep, almost into the bumper. I think there was some contact. That backs Houndshell up now into John Whitendorf in a battle for 7th.
Everyone still keeping it and trying to get straightened out and stay single file, but still side-by-side action for the 6th place position is Whitendorf trying everything he can right now, but just cannot get by Houndshell.
It looks like these guys are racing tooth and nail, but I almost wonder if they might be racing a little bit conservative. We saw quite a bit of give and take there in these first 4 laps, and that's just up here inside of the top 10. So far, we've been able to keep it clean and green all the way back through the field. They're really spread out there in the second half of the field. Up here at the front is where they're congested. Still that battle for the 6th position.
Yeah, second on back, they're still pretty close to having a battle here. It looks like Bo Brady might be under fire, but really, it's Whitendorf that's stuck in a position. Tom Bourne might be thinking about making it 3 wide, but stays behind Houndshell at the moment.
Just taking a look there, does that 54 as Whitendorf pulls right down there on the door of Jake Houndshell, trying to hurt his exit off the corner. That's what's been keeping the 02 and the 33 side by side, and it looks like maybe, just maybe, Houndshell's saying, all right, I'm going to back off, give you the spot, but nope, drives it deep there into 3 again.
Yeah, continuing to try to keep that position. Track position is going to be so important. We haven't seen a wreck just yet, but we've already seen a lot of these machines getting loose through the corners. And that's something that we're going to be seeing all race long, of drivers getting loose, trying to back off. And you got to be careful not to run that car over that gets out of shape.
Oh man, Jake Houndshell, that car just really tightens up on him going through 1 and 2, up almost into the door of John Whitendorf, who finally completes the pass around the outside. And here comes that 05 of Blaine Ack, and we were surprised about the low qualifying result that he had, but since the drop of the green flag, he has picked up 5 positions, about to try and see if he can pick up a 5th one here on Tom Bourne.
Yeah, right now is trying to make as many moves as possible. Started 15th, now up to 9th place, and really Blaine Ackett, it looked like he went more of the conservative route during qualifying, and it hurt him with starting in the middle of the field. Now able to be making passes, Tom Bourne defending the best that he can, trying not to give any space on the inside.
Campbell continues to pull away. Right now, almost 9/10 of a second between himself and this 3-way battle for the runner-up spot. Kyle Johnson has it. Bo Brady about a car length and a half behind him, then another car length back to that 3 of Christopher Morse Jr.
Yeah, and they're going to continue to stay side by side as much as they can. It's a car that looks like they might be out of shape and dropping back. That might be the 57 machine that was a little bit out of shape, but able to hold on back in 13th position as there's side-by-side action behind him.
Also saw the 83 there, that DuPont machine. He was way up the track there in 1 and 2, lost a number of positions through those corners. He's battling here with DeMarzo. The 10 up ahead of them, Peyton Hamlet, getting a little out of shape as he darts to the inside of Caden Thor.
Yeah, and these cars are just throwing it in as hard as they can in these corners, and you're seeing the cars on the outside getting out of shape. Causey almost runs into the 83 there. Got to be careful when you're trying to go into these corners and on exit.
It's up driving there. Causey lifting to avoid spinning the 83. Jackson
McLaren got pushing the 5 up into the 57. And they're still bouncing up one another. There goes the wreck. They're spinning up in the straightaway.
This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. The track's going to be completely blockaded up.
The outside looks like it's clear. Staples decides to go the inside. Had a really woe up. Dallas Myhan was involved. The 84 was involved. It looks like the 8.
81.
Yeah.
Causey in the 8, I believe, a lot of damage on his machine.
And it was a string of cars that actually spun around. Yeah, we saw the initial contact on stream. But, I mean, everyone else, I think those reactionary spins of just everyone else trying to, some cars slowing up and others not reacting fast enough to everyone woeing up.
That's the perils of Phoenix. You've got that wall separating pit road from the racetrack, so when drivers start wrecking in that portion of the track off 4 and down the front straightaway, there's very little area to be able to maneuver your way through a wreck. You have to kind of slam on the brakes, but as we mentioned, the track is slick, so just because you slam on the brakes doesn't mean that car is going to come to a dead stop.
It is pretty wild to rewatch this accident because, yes, you had Thor in that incident. Then you had Kazi and McLaren make contact. And then behind them, you had two machines getting absolutely ran over at the same exact time. And a little bit of symmetry between those two drivers.
We're going to look at the initial contact here. There you see first little contact in 3 between DeMarzo and Thor. Then back up again, more contact. That's what gets the M&M's car out of shape. Ozzy behind them had actually gotten the wall as well, so I'm not certain that even if he hadn't hit the 57, that he might not have actually gotten involved in the wreck, maybe gone down to the inside wall. And a couple of other drivers, who said, spinning through that wreck. We'll look at them here in just a brief moment. And some of the guys that qualified near the back of the pack, literally crawling through the smoke here.
Yeah, Staples had to slow down. Matthew Rodriguez had to come to a complete stop because multiple cars decided to slide in front of him and just waited it out. And just overall, a lot of junked up cars now. And Lake, I think, might have gotten the worst out of it, losing that back bumper. Thor, yes, he's got some front end damage that's going to be hurting him. His wheel looks affected. McLaren got a lot of front end damage into the wall. Also, the 84, Peyton Hill, heavy damage on that machine. But yeah, this is what happens when you wreck coming out of 4 here at Phoenix. Is like we said, cars trying to slow down, and the reactionary of the cars behind him, not knowing that there's an accident. Some of them will slow up, and most of them are not slowing down.
You talked about drivers synchronized spinning off the corner. Peyton Hill, I believe, his was a solo incident. Anthony Guarneri, on the other hand, he actually got looped around off the nose of the 81 of Shane Lake. And that's a couple of drivers involved in this wreck that were up there in the point standings. Guarneri was 11th in points, and we know that Dallas Myhan might have gotten a little piece of that. That's second in the standings.
Yeah, and that's that luck we were talking about. Sometimes these drivers need it. And it's also the risk of being back here further back in the field, as it's looking like Thor going to be our first car to officially DNF from this race. In the 57 machine, that's not the way that he wanted this race to go after a few of great runs that we've been seeing from himself. But the pace car rolls off. Green flag back in the air as Gerald Campbell takes off.
Campbell chose the outside line here for this restart over Kyle Johnson. Honestly, I'm not sure even if he took the inside line that he would have had a bad restart, but I think took that outside line to be able to have a better arc going into turn 1.
Yeah, we saw in that first restart, got a huge run. I think he's going to be taking that outside groove until he has to really switch things up, looking great for himself, as there are a lot of cars jam-packed back around 5th place, as we're starting to see Christopher Morris Jr. trying to make his way forward. Then you got Jeff Green, Tom Bourne, and Blaine Atkin moving their way up forward.
This is going to be interesting to watch this particular run based on the fact that these guys were out there for about 8 to 10 laps under green flag conditions. Ran a couple of laps there under pacing, which would have cooled these worn tires down. So it's going to be an entirely different feeling going into turn 1 now than it was at the start of the race.
Yeah, right now these drivers trying their best to hold on, but it looks like our front drivers all staying in line. Not a lot of passing going on until you go back to around 14th place, where you're going to be finding yourself with Roth as well as Roth, and all side by side. You also can throw the 5 machine involved in this one.
DeMarzo in the mix. Seth Harrelson there in the 07 is again that 83 having troubles with 1 and 2 way up the track again, dropping back to the 15th position now into the clutches of Harrelson. Further up, got a battle on. That's Payton Hamlet on the move. He's looking for the 9th position, or make that 10th place rather, on Jason Hounshell.
Yeah, Rocky Boyd going to be trying to follow suit, and then in front of them, you got Blaine Atkin, who's going to be trying to make it 3 wide here into turn number 1.
No.
And almost makes it happen. Now Tom Bourne shoves it in there for 3 wide action again out of 1.
Tom Bourne was the one that backed out of it going into turn 1. That's what gave him the better exit through the center of the corner off, and then he crossed over Atkin, who slid up the track and moved Christopher Morris Jr. up with him. I don't know how we got through the events of turns 1 and 2 without a caution coming out. Credit these drivers for keeping it together.
With the way the middle car looked on both of those 3 wide actions, you thought for sure an accident was going to happen, but keeping it safe. These are a lot of cars that have been feeling respectful as Tom gets tapped, and he always goes around. He does. As the 54 car able to slow it up, we stay green.
He does not come back up onto the racing surface, so no yellow flag thrown here. Tom Bourne going to get the thing refired. That was a battle that was going on around the 8th position at the time.
Now the yellow comes out, as I believe Tom might have gotten straight. No, it's in front of him.
Oh,
more
85.
cars wrecking.
85 of James Goshen has had a problem.
Blake involved as well again in the 83.
Caution's going to fly for the second time here today, and that's a huge break in one respect for Tom Bourne, but again, all those positions lost, and that 81 car is all used up.
Yeah, that's going to be starting into turn number 3, where the 83 did not slow down at all, ran into DiMarzio, and around everyone went. And oh my goodness, Shane Terrian was inches away from being involved in this thing, somehow survives in that 38 machine.
Go back and take a look at what happened there. We'll also take the opportunity. We saw it live, but we'll go back and look more in depth to the contact that sent Tom Bourne around. Looked like just a whole bunch of stacking up, as here was the incident into 3, rough into the back of DiMarzio. Little contact there as well for the 07 of Harlson. Just nowhere for Goshen to go, as the 83's back bumper came right down into his lane.
Yeah, there was just nothing really to do in that situation. And you know, everyone was trying to woe up and try not to run each other over, but that's exactly what happened, is drivers getting ran over when they get all clustered up like they were.
The thing I gotta wonder too, you know, you look at the spin of Tom Bourne here, these drivers have a limited number set of tires, and we know here at a track as slick as Phoenix, when you go into a slide, that is going to wear those Goodyears down a ton, so it almost puts you into a really difficult position of more than likely having to come down and take on a set you didn't really want to.
Yeah, and, you know, for these drivers, luckily Tom Bourne didn't take any damage and was able to avoid the incident in front of him after all those cars wrecking. And this 54 machine looked like he was moving up, a top 5 car with the speed that he had. Due to the fact that he's clean, he's going to be around a lot of drivers that have heavy damage. He's going to have to try to tiptoe his way around them. But if he finds himself back up front, there might be some retaliation that possibly could have happened here. There's always that short run. You never know when someone's going to try to come back and possibly use their bumper on you.
Ooh, spinning the payback story. Well, it was the 02 of Jake Hounshell that got into the back of him, so we'll keep an eye on those two if they get into close proximity.
You never know when someone... You never know.
Who knows? Who knows here? Anyway, it's going to be Gerald Campbell. It's going to get us back underway when we get the 1 to green. A number of drivers, though, have had to come to pit road, have had to repair their race cars. Up to this point, Caden Thor is still the only driver out of the race, but a very lengthy pit stop for the 83 of Kevin Ruff. He's already lost a lap here under caution, as looks like right now we've got 28 cars scored on the lead lap. It's Joseph Causey, James Goshen. They're back down pit road again, getting some repairs done, but 20 laps in here, now about to complete the 21st lap, and only 2 cautions. So these drivers, you know, based on what we saw in practice, they've done a pretty good job here with keeping things relatively clean and green. And I don't know why it is, but that seems to always be a trend. We end up seeing drivers struggle in practice, and I think it gets through to them that, hey, in order to make sure you're going to keep that car in one piece, you got to settle in for the long run. There's got to be that give and take early on in the race.
Yeah, and also practice is when you're able to figure out, hey, what is the edge for these cars? How much can I push it? And the maximum amount of speed I can get out of these cars. And I think that's what we were seeing during practice. And usually most of the time during practice, when cars are spinning out a lot, they'll know, hey, we cannot push it as hard as we've been doing. Got to keep ourselves relaxed and patient during this race. And we've been seeing a lot of that patience being seen. Some drivers, though, I think it's really the difference of braking zones. That's why we've been seeing some of these wrecks and some of these cars being pushed out of the way. And it's going to continue on throughout this race as we're inching closer and closer to 100 laps to go. Pace car pulls off, green flag about to be waving.
It's going to be Gerald Campbell and Kyle Johnson gets back underway. Johnson was trying to anticipate. He almost did, but he is going to lose the lead to Gerald Campbell going into turn 1. He'll hold the second spot. It's going to be third place now. Whitendorf in that second groove again. He's actually been one of the few drivers that's made that outside line work here.
Oh boy, behind him though, Rocky Boy was thinking about going 4 wide for a second there. There's still possibility of 3 wide, they are.
And Atkins going to stick his nose there to the left rear. Not quite there. He will clear Hamlet. He'll move into the 7th spot. Green will hold 6 as Whitendorf now has to tuck in line behind Bo Brady. And how about some of these names that have popped up here that started at the rear of the field? Rocky Boyd never even got to put down a lap time. He's up in 9th. Hank Steinmiller spun on the back straightaway. He's 13th. And right now, Dallas Myhan, who was able to get through that wreck, he's currently up in 17th place.
Yeah, Seth Harlson also up in 12th place. That's another driver that started back in 28th position for this race. So a lot of cars shifting up and down. I think that's a mixture of cars that have been bumped out of the way and also just finding that speed and that pace and understanding, hey, our qualifying run might have been us pushing a little bit too hard. Let's back off just a little bit.
Steinmiller right now making another pass. That's on Harlson. AJ DeMarzo right behind him. Then you got them stacked up from 15th place on back. Nick Radar, James Roth, Dallas Myhand all in that mix.
Yeah, and back here you got a lot of cars that are going to be in kind of a very tricky situation. Some of them came back just to get fuel, and now we're trying to make runs forward. Shane Tarian and Tom Bourne, one of those drivers that are back here. As a car gets loose, it's going to be Lake that spins it around the 81. Also Mclaren involved. Yellow not thrown, and it will be thrown for both those drivers.
Will now be thrown. As you saw the 48, the oncoming car of Jonathan Leach. Yellow flag going to fly for the third time here today, and it looks like McLaren actually had to teleport his car back to pit road. So tough break there for McLaren making his second start of the season. Lake was able to continue on from the incident. We'll go back and see what happened out of 4.
Yeah, that started out with Shane Lake and the 81 machine just getting loose in the center of 3 and 4 and a struggling position in that spot as Jackson McLaren nowhere to go in that 7 machine. He was stuck in his lane and ran into the 81 machine and bringing out this caution.
And you see there's some rear end damage already sustained in the back bumper of that 81 car. You know, if you end up having damage on the rear end, it's going to affect that spoiler and maybe make that car even looser going into the turns.
Jackson McLaren, after teleporting to pit road, saw how much damage there was and decided it's better just to park it for the day. Our second DNF for the 7 machine.
Break there for Jackson McLaren. Finished 17th in his debut last week at Las Vegas. Will not be finishing there here today, and it looks like the 83 of Kevin Roth has also taken his car back behind the wall. So currently 3 drivers are out of the race of the 32 that took the green flag to start this one. We're still waiting to see about the situation for James Goshen. Mentioned that last week he ended up getting involved in an early wreck, spent a lot of time on pit road, but I think he was outside the top 30, finished the evening inside of the top 25, picking up spots of drivers that ran into issues later on in the race.
Yeah, and honestly, if Goshen can get that machine fixed up and back out there with how early we've been seeing a lot of these cars wrecking out and just leaving, this could be giving positions. This 85 machine trying to get those points and trying to aim for possibly a top 20 in points run here today if we start seeing as many cautions as we've been seeing so far popping up.
Got about 6 or 7 drivers that are coming down pit road here. One of them I know for certain is coming down for some damage repair. That's the 19 of Randy Koking. He was up battling at the time around the 18th position we saw just before that caution went up and slapped the outside wall in 3 and 4. So undoubtedly trying to get that damage repaired. As when we get ready to go back green, it will be Gerald Campbell, still the race leader, Kyle Johnson second, Bo Brady third, followed by John Whitendorf and Christopher Morse Jr. Your top 10, Jeff Green, Blaine Atkin, Peyton Hamlet, Rocky Boyd, and Jay Counshaw. You've actually got the Houndshow brothers lined up nose to tail in 10th and 11th. Hank Steinmiller in 12th. Seth Harlson 13th, 14th will be AJ DeMarzo, and Nick Radar right now in 15th. Completion of the top 20 will be James Roth, Dallas Myhand, Shane Tarian, Robert Kenny, and Tom Bourne.
Just looking at these front drivers, I mean, it just seems like our top about 5, they usually get in line pretty quick after a lap or 2, and it seems like it's been pretty difficult for them to make any passes on one another. We've been seeing Whitendorf trying to make that outside line work. I think the more that he works on that outside groove, though, we're going to really see it come into really its own, probably around the halfway to about the 3/4 mark of this race. That's when we're really going to be seeing possibly this 33 machine making that outside line. Might be the most preferred line because how much grip's going to be up there compared to the inside groove.
Yeah, right now, with not being rubbered in, though, it is the longer way around the racetrack. So is that putting him at a disadvantage in terms of wearing his tires down as opposed to the other drivers that are down the inside line?
Oh, it certainly is putting him at a disadvantage for sure. I mean, for sure, because of the fact that the 33 machine, like I said, it's not rubbered in. It's going to be a little bit slicker, and it's going to take a while to get over everyone else. But it does carry a lot of momentum on these straightaways, and that's where the advantage is for this driver. And expecting it to, like I said, continue to come in and work out. Another driver has officially DNF'd. That's going to be Jonathan Leach in that 48 machine.
Looks like right now, pending where he is at in relation to other drivers behind him, Leach will be finishing at least 28th here tonight, maybe 29th, depending on what the situation is going to be for James Goshen to get to the end of this race. Going to be going back green with what will officially be 95 laps to go here at Phoenix. Getting ready for our third restart as again Campbell takes that outside line. Kyle Johnson tried to anticipate the restart last time. We'll see what he's able to do this time on that inside line. He didn't quite time it right again. Campbell's going to get away. Clears by at least a car length and a half going to turn one.
Yeah, that time around, Gerald Campbell woed up the field, and that really hurt the middle of the pack because they got all spread out because they had to slow down so much compared to everyone else. But they are all boxed in, as it looks like that 05 machine trying to make some moves back there, but our top four are all on top of one another.
Again, we're almost looking 3 wide going into turn 3, Akin to the inside of Hamlet. And yeah, that not only stacked up the top 5, but then it really stacked up pretty much the second half of the top 10. That's where we find Jeff Green, Christopher Morse Jr., Hamlet, Akin, as well as Rocky Boyd in the 77.
How did Christopher Morse Jr. save that 3 machine? That was completely 45 degrees sideways. What an amazing save by Christopher Morse Jr.
It was still loose trying to gather it up there in the exit of turn 2. The 10 of Peyton Hamlet had to check up to allow him to gather it back up.
I was just about to say, some of these drivers seem like they might be getting irritated as Christopher Morse Jr. going to be pinching the 02 of Jake Hounshell, and they continue to go on side by side down the front stretch. But that was incredible by the 3 machine.
And a good view of this is the 63 of Hank Steinmiller, who was just nearly into the back bumper of Peyton Hamlet. Hamlet trying to get to the inside of Christopher Morse Jr. Morse may have him cleared by the time they get down to turn 3. He does. He's now going to try and cross over Jake Hounshell for 8th.
Yeah, right now, Jake Hounshell going to be trying to power his way past the 77 machine of Rocky Boyd. And I was just about to say, I think Rocky Boyd might have been someone I was wondering if he was going to start racing aggressive here, but Hank Steinmiller ducking it below the 3 machine. Now trying to make a pass. Hounshell bumping the 77 off the exit of 1.
I'm just going to say this right now. Remember back to Richmond, wasn't it the 77 and the 02 that got into it quite a bit there from turn 4?
Oh, Rocky Boyd hit again. The 77 is just getting absolutely shoved everywhere, and yeah, that could be possible. Yeah, Rocky Boyd, the first 3 races, was being pretty aggressive, got suspended for a race, and now I think some drivers thinking, hey, I'll get my shots during this race.
Say that racers have the memories of elephants. They do not forget, as they're still stacked up here with Boyd, Hamlet, Jason Hounshell. Shane Tyrion's now up here inside the top 15. Oh, now he's battling on the top side. AJ DeMarzo there as well. Tom Bourne trying to come back after his spin on the back straightaway. He's up to 14th.
Yeah, and both Shane Tyrion and Tom Bourne were part of a group of drivers that came in, got extra fuel, just in case this race goes green to the end. They can go a little bit further than everyone else and make sure they've got tires fresher than the rest of the field.
Starting to see a lot more drivers migrate up to that second line. John Whitendorf seemed to be the only one that was going up there, but I've seen Steinmiller, Shane Tyrion, Tom Bourne, they're all migrating up there now, saying thank you very much for the rubber you laid down there, 33 car. Now we'll take advantage of it.
You know, we started to see our front 4 pulling away initially for the first couple of laps.
Out of turn 4, and up and over goes Peyton Hamlet.
Oh, and Roth's also going to be involved, and Coquine involved.
Nary's going to get a piece of it as well, as Peyton Hamlet went for a wild airborne ride there off of turn 4. Thing was getting loose. It looked like he was trying to correct it, overcorrected, right back up into traffic.
DiMarzio's car absolutely riddled, and Graneri had nowhere to go. Rewatching the replay, that 16 machine losing his front bumper.
Back and take a look at what happened. Hamlet had been having such a good run, was up inside of the top 10 for the first 35 laps of this race, but it all went south in the matter of a corner.
Yeah, it looked like he might have gone a little bit too low on the apron off the exit, got him loose, overcorrected, and came up right into the 5. He became the victim of this accident.
You see the shot there that sends the 10 car nearly airborne, and then back down the track, blocks the inside line where Guarneri was committed. And as you said, a lot of damage sustained on that 16 machine of Anthony Guarneri's second incident he's been involved in here today. A driver that was trying to be able to point his way into the top 10 at the conclusion of this race.
Yeah, I also want to go back and watch Roth and Coquine. They had an incident after the initial spin just because Roth was slowing down and Coquine did not recognize that and ran right into the 4, got him a little bit airborne and spun around.
Take a look at that here. Oh, there you see it. Yep, just jacks up the 4 machine. It's going to be a lot of damage sustained on the front end of Randy Koking's 19. There you see it, just kind of completely buckled up that hood. That's going to be something we'll have to keep an eye on here for the remainder of this race as well, the damage sustained by both those drivers.
I also want to go back to the point when we were seeing Rocky Boy just getting shoved all over the place. He did put himself into the outside wall for a second before we started seeing him getting hit by the 3 and by the 0-2. So there was some right side damage to the 77 that was sustained. He's now in the pits trying to get that repaired.
Here you see a bit of sponsorship there from the back bumper of James Roth into the windshield of Randy Koking, as that was the incident off of turn 4 following up the wreck that we saw with Payton Hamlet. So we're working our 4th caution of the day here, and you talked about these drivers trying to split this race in half. I think especially with these cautions coming out, that's making that strategy even more and more appetizing for them, because they're being able to save those tires under these pace laps.
Yeah, Phoenix is one of those toss-up tracks where sometimes it goes green all the way to the end with no accidents and no wrecks and no cautions, and sometimes it's kind of a wreck fest like we've been seeing. Yes, we've been green for 5 to 10 laps, and then a caution comes out, but it is going to not really wear down these tires as much, also allowing you to save some fuel to go a little bit further than everyone else. And really now it makes it to, when do you really feel like you need to take your first set of tires? Do you feel like it's a little bit past halfway or on halfway? We know that the drivers, they only have a total of 2 sets of tires in pit road to work with, so that's what we always throw in. Halfway is the marker for most of them. Some drivers might be thinking about using all of them here and maybe pitting here in the next 5 to 10 laps.
Right now, we have had a total of 11 drivers that have not come to pit road for any reason. Fuel, tires, damage repair, anything like that. They are all right now running up inside of the top 13. We got Shane Tyrion and Tom Bourne. They're up in the top 10. They were on pit road about 20 laps ago to top off the fuel tank. So obviously those two have very fast race cars, been able to work their way up through the field after being back towards the rear of the field, haven't come down and top off the fuel. So keep an eye on them here on this run, as Campbell about to get us back underway. We're a third of the way through this race in about 2 laps, and it's been all Gerald Campbell. So what do these guys have to do to get around that 25 car? Because right now, as things are looking, he's en route to win number 3 this season.
I think it's going to have to take a differential tire strategy that's going to be putting you the best opportunity to pass this 25 car. Gerald Campbell, based on everyone having the even of sets of tires and the way the tires have been working out, I would say that he's got the best machine. He's just got to make sure he hits his marks and doesn't make any mistakes, like we've been seeing the other drivers that are involved on the top side of the points. Just keep doing what you're doing, because it's been working all season long. That's why he's had the consistency during going for the pole, and also the best finishing so far.
3 of our 4 former winners this season up in the top 6 as Campbell gets us back underway. Johnson to second. Brady trying to clear Jeff Green for third. Looks like top 4, maybe 5 will get single file going into turn 1.
Immediately single file, and now it's going to be Shane Tyrion on the outside, making Whitendorf on the inside, and a little bit of switch up than what we've been seeing. That 38 machine looking quick. Someone to watch out for here, as he is someone that possibly could be trying to run down our leader. Also, Blaine Atkin trying that outside line.
He's going to try and look at the outside of Jeff Green. Tyrion crosses down at the inside, touches the apron coming off of turn 4. That's the battle right now for 5th.
They're wrecking. They're all stacking up. That whole entire front stretch is clogged.
Hamlet, Lake, as well as Staples and DeMarzo there in our shot. And I think there may have been a couple of other drivers collected up in this one also.
Yeah, there were, I think, most of the people that have been involved in previous accidents involved in this one. I don't even know where this started. Going back, we're trying to figure out where the starting point was, but a massive amount of machines caught up in this one.
See if we can pinpoint who this wreck started with, and it looks like it could very well have been the 28 of Benjamin Staples, and I think he may have gotten just a little bit of help too.
Yeah, he got loose, came up into Rocky Boyd, and Boyd had nowhere to go, coming up, and the rest of the field behind him.
Oh, wow.
And a little bit more contact for a lot of the drivers in the back half, for sure.
You see the shot that Hamlet took into the outside wall, getting hooked off the nose of Guarneri.
I mean, it hit him so hard that he is now officially out of the race. Another DNF for the 10.
Boy, when the 10 car of Hamlet wrecked the first time, it was an overcorrection that nosed him straight into the wall. I would wager this second hit was even harder than the first, but again, it was head on to that outside wall off of turn 4.
AJ DiMarzio also, his tires completely broke on animation, and then they came back together so he can continue driving. But that 5 machine, also the front end, is not looking good for himself.
Roth in the 4 was able to come to a stop. He was not involved. Shane Lake did get a piece of it. I think he may have spun trying to avoid the wreck. Some hard shots taken here on this one. And as you mentioned, that has now taken the 10 of Payton Hamlet out of this race. The garage area continues to pile up the further we get into this race, and we're expecting to see more of the same. Still a long ways to go into this one. We kind of had the feeling coming into this race, if you were going to qualify mid-pack, rear of the field, it was going to be really a race of survival.
Yeah, and expecting these drivers to try to do their best moving forward. Do want to give note. Looks like Robert Kenny, also Nick Radar, given EOL. So I'm trying to figure out for what reason, but both those drivers seem to be having an issue. The admins decided that they both needed to be moved to the end of the line.
Possibly restart violations? I don't know. I'm not really certain what the restart rules are here. I'm just trying to think of what possibilities there are, because it looks like neither of those machines have been to pit road for a while. Of course, they just were on pit road here after getting the EOL, but I think it's been about 15, 20 laps since they've both been on pit lane.
Yeah, they both have not been in pit road. They just went in now. So interesting for both of them. But we're waiting to see which of these drivers, if they'll continue to have this EOL or if it will be removed, as we're still trying to get word on what exactly happened.
So Gerald Campbell lined up still on point. Kyle Johnson second, but your top 10 is kind of shuffled around a bit since that last run. Shane Tyrion picked up a couple spots up to 6th. The Houndshell brothers are now up in 8th and 9th. Jake over Jason, and Seth Harlson has now appeared up inside of the top 10 there in that 07 machine.
Yeah, we're still waiting for a lot of these drivers to still come into pit road. I think we have about 10 drivers that still have not officially pitted yet. So still waiting for a lot of these shifts and shakeups to be seen. But yeah, for the drivers that are up here in the top 10, I mean, it's crazy to see that qualifying still doesn't look like it's the most important thing, like we've seen for Shane Terrian qualified back in 29th position and now up to 6th, even with coming into the pits.
Yeah, and what makes it impressive, too, is the fact, as mentioned, this is the Legacy Phoenix. I mean, right here, the normal ISM, the updated ISM, all that grass down there is paved, and it's an area where you can go down and race. Based on the fact that that is grass here at the Legacy version of Phoenix International Raceway, it makes it a little bit more congested. These drivers only have about 3 or 4 lanes to be able to work with on the back straightaway, as opposed to about maybe 10 lanes that they could use if that were all paved.
Yeah, and it's not really giving you an opportunity to try to save your machine if you get out of shape down there. And expecting a lot of these drivers, maybe from here, possibly think about giving each other space. But what I'm starting to see is it's really the cars that are in the back half of the field that we've seen be involved in wrecks. Their cars are damaged, and there was already dealing with a loose machine. Now with the damaged machine, it's going to be making things a lot more harder as we are green.
We are green, as you saw. Audible has been called. Single file restarts here is Jeff Green. Ooh, that car got really tight. He had to lift through the center of the corner, and he had Blaine Atkin inside of his back bumper.
Yeah, Blaine Atkin has been notoriously known for these single-file restarts to make a lot of bold moves to try to make passes early, and now going to be putting Green on the high side, but we've been seeing the high side line. That groove's starting to work off the exit a lot better than the inside, and that's what's keeping these two machines side by side.
Shane Terry and John Whitendorf and Jake Houndshell in this 5-car pack from 4th back to 8th place. Atkin gets a little tight off the corner. That opens up the door. Ooh, might have been a little contact there. Shane Tyrion muscles his way to the top side.
Yeah, trying to find his way to the high side. That's where he was making the most moves earlier in the race. We'll see if he can try to make the pass here on Atkin, as Atkin hugging that inside lane. And you got to be careful, because we've seen so many machines. If you are touching that yellow line right when you come off the corner, you've been seeing a lot of cars get extremely loose. There's yellow in the back once again.
Caution's going to come out. I believe it might have possibly been the 29 of Nick Radar. I was watching him start to free fall through the field, was having some connection problems. We'll wait and see if indeed he was the reason for this caution.
He was having internet issues, and I believe when he came back, he was on the inside and was just stopped. And so the game, iRacing deemed that as a hazard, and the yellow flag waving out in the air.
We're still trying to find him as he's continuing to blink in and out. There is the 29 now finally back on pit road. Radar currently, because of the connection problems, finds himself 2 laps down. So not necessarily a wreck, but a connection problem. As you said, iRacing deeming that caution worthy. We'll see if we can go back and see where he was when he reappeared. Obviously, you're going to be seeing him disappear for a brief moment on your screen.
Yeah, it's going to be a little weird to see on the replay, but that is what's going to cause the caution due to the fact that the driver is stopped on the racing surface. That is going to be bringing out our yellow, and we're getting close to the halfway marker here, Seth, and it looks like some of our front runners thinking about pit road, leaving Gerald Campbell on his lonesome up high.
Oh, I asked the question, how do you beat Gerald Campbell? Maybe this is it right here.
The only issue is now Gerald Campbell is going to be on the freshest tires later on in this race, and that's how he won last week. But it was a mile and a half where we've only seen that 25 machine get wins. You're at a mile course. I mean, Phoenix has been kind of odd to see. Gerald Campbell has gone with a different strategy here today, going with stay up front, don't let off, and just continuously push your machine. I think he's figured out, hey, saving your tires isn't the best here at these short tracks.
There also weren't a whole lot of your race leaders that came down. Kyle Johnson, Bo Brady, and Blaine Akin look like they were 3 of the front runners that elected to come down pit road under this caution.
And they're going to be some of the first front runners that are going to be taking tires. A lot of the drivers that have already pitted, not a lot of them have taken tires. So this is going to be our first sighting of, with fresh tires, 50 lap difference. How much of an advantage do you have on the rest of the field?
Wasn't this the same strategy that we saw Bo Brady and Kyle Johnson both pull last week at Las Vegas? Obviously, it didn't really work out for Kyle Johnson as he was involved in a late race wreck, but I'm pretty certain that Bo Brady was actually off sequence with everybody else. That's how he was able to work his way up to the front and obviously stay there, almost pulling off the victory last week.
It wasn't just last week. It was the week after that as well that we saw at Bristol. Same strategy there of being off sequence, about 50 lap difference, trying to be the first car with tires so you could be up front, battling, pulling away, and making everyone else struggle to get through the field. And this is kind of a different story because it looked like back at Bristol and at Las Vegas, there was a lot more room to be making these passes. Here at Phoenix, it's been a lot more scary to even try to make a pass just because of how loose everyone has been.
This is going to make things interesting, too, because of our front runners, Johnson, Akin, Brady, they're the first ones to come down and take on the fresh tires. So now we're going to get to see the difference of speed, the difference of ability to work your way back up to the front, and how long it's going to take you from the old tires to the fresh tires. We obviously documented Shane Tyrion and Tom Bourne working their way up through the field, but they were still on the same number of laps on their Goodyears as everybody else. They had just lost their track position because of coming down and taking on extra fuel. So we're going to keep interesting to keep an eye on that 88, 05, and 20. See how long it's going to take to get them back up to where they were before they came to pit road.
Update on cars that have been wrecked and involved in a lot of instances. The 29 to Nick Radar has officially DNF'd from the race, has left the server, and is done for the day. Looking like we're going to be going with single file restarts once again here, Seth. So will we be seeing? I think right now I'm going to be watching back at Blaine Atkin because he's been known to be making some very bold restarts, and with fresher tires, he's going to go wild here with everyone else.
We also know that Kyle Johnson, when he's towards the back of the pack, he slices and dices his way up through the field awfully quickly as well. That's going to be outside of the top 15 with the 88, 05, and 20 on fresh tires. Gerald Campbell now has Jeff Green behind him here in second place. Shane Tyrion in third. John Whitendorf and Jake Hounshell, the top 5, as we're getting ready to go back green, closing in on the halfway point here at Phoenix.
Green flag back in the air. Once again, a huge restart for Gerald Campbell, up to a half a second already.
Battle right now looks like it's going to be stacking up from 5th place on back. Jake Hounshell, Jason Hounshell, Tom Bourne in the 54, Seth Harrelson as well. You mentioned about the fact maybe we could see some payback. 02 and 54, they're in close proximity. We'll still keep an eye on that. I'm not necessarily certain there will be some fallout from that. It kind of looked like a racing deal, but we'll keep an eye on it nonetheless.
Shane Tyrion going to be side-by-side with Jeff Green, and Jeff Green stuck on the inside, Tyrion on the outside for that 38 machine. But Blaine Atkin is already cruised himself from 17th up to 15th and trying to make a move here on Robert Kenny.
continuing to try and fight his way up through the field, but has to do it slowly and methodically, has to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes. Now battling for the 14th position, and the advantage of having those fresh tires as well. He's going to be able to put his car in places other drivers couldn't, and they stack up because of it.
Yeah, Kyle Johnson's going to be involved. Yeah, Kyle Johnson losing his bumper a little bit there, and you knew that the aggression was going to be there for those drivers, but I don't think Kyle Johnson was expecting them to stack up, and just because Rocky Boyd slowed down, Robert Kenny had to slow down, and the accordion effect showed its rear face right there.
Like I said, you're able to do things with the fresher tires that drivers on older tires cannot do. One of those things, you can drive it deeper into the corner. That's what Blaine Atkin wanted to do. Kenny had another car in front of him that stacked him up. And Atkin with some damage there on the back end of his machine after he got run to the back of by Kyle Johnson. I thought the caution may not necessarily come out because then the secondary contact between the 88 and the 05 straightened Blaine Atkin back up, but we are under yellow for the 7th time here tonight.
Yeah, the yellow had to come out. I mean, Blaine Atkin, yes, he got straightened out, but the time that the caution came out, that 05 was completely perpendicular to the rest of the field, and that is not safe for anyone out there. And so the caution had to be waived, but now rear end damage for Blaine Atkin, front end damage for Kyle Johnson. Both these drivers that were trying to go for an advantage for themselves now are going to be hurting with this damage that they have. Most likely they're going to be coming in the pits, trying to get that damage repaired as Kyle Johnson pulls it in the pits.
Mentioned there was a car in front of Robert Kenny that kind of checked that whole group up. That was the 77 of Rocky Boyd, and we're just going to show you how quickly things happen here at Phoenix and how there's no reaction time. We're going to go on board with the 88 of Kyle Johnson, and Phoenix, Sam, isn't necessarily one of those huge aerodynamic tracks, but how is this front end damage going to affect that 88 for the rest of this race?
It matters on how hard that hit was. There's a chance that he could have hit, Atkin enough to where it was just the bumper damage and not engine damage. But if he hit it enough to where there's engine damage, he's down on power, this is going to hurt him a lot, especially with the front ends and the back. I mean, the front stretch and the back stretch being so important here at Phoenix, and also just getting a great launch off. This could be hurting Kyle Johnson the most overall. I'm going to step away for a second here, Seth. I'll be right back.
All right, so Kyle Johnson actually was on pit road getting some damage repaired on that 88 machine. Blaine Atkin, on the other hand, did not come down pit road to get damage repaired to the back end of his 05. So Kyle Johnson going to be back there in the 21st position officially when we go back green. Just to update as far as more drivers that have had some issues here tonight, we've got the 85 of James Goshen. He's back out there on the racetrack. He currently has picked up a few more spots. He was, I believe, 31st when we last checked. He is now up to 26th and about to maybe pick up another position from AJ DeMarzo, who is currently still sitting on pit road getting damage repaired. Benjamin Staples sitting on pit road in 27th. He's been there for about 13 minutes. I already mentioned Nick Radar's out of the race. Shane Lake currently in 23rd. He is 3 laps down. He just actually got one of those laps back, being the lucky dog driver. 22 cars are currently on the lead lap of 24 that are currently running, and 2 drivers sit on pit road getting their damage repaired as Gerald Campbell continues to show the way. He, along with Jeff Green, John Whitendorf, Jake Hounshell, Jason Hounshell, Seth Harlson, and Dallas Myhan, they have yet to come to pit road in this race, and we are now closing into the halfway point. They did not pit under this caution, so we can possibly assume that they are actually going to take the next caution to come down and maybe make their first pit stop of the day. But who knows, with all the pace laps we've been running, they might have been able to stretch that window they were thinking about a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, the window is going to be pretty far for these drivers, especially with how many cautions we've been having. It allows them to go pretty further than what we expect. Maybe instead of pitting here at the halfway marker of around 66 to maybe push it out to maybe lap 70, 80 is pretty far for most of these drivers. I think Shane Terry and Tom Bourne and the others that pitted earlier, they might be thinking about pitting on lap 80, but for everyone else, they might be thinking about lap 60 to 70.
Green flag back in the air. Gerald Campbell looks back in his rearview mirror, and for the second straight restart, it's a brand new driver behind him. This time, the 38 of Shane Tyrion, who he'll gap by about 3 car lengths. Another 2 car lengths back to Jeff Green. Then you've got John Whitendorf, Jake Hounshell, Tom Bourne. That's a 3-way battle for 4th.
Yeah, they're keeping it close between one another. The car, though, with the freshest tires, that really has got a chance to make his way up through the field. I think that's going to be Bo Brady. Also, Blaine Atkin, yes, he's got damage, but still looking quick with the fresher tires.
Brady going to work there on Blaine Atkin. They make some contact for the 13th position.
Yeah, they're trying to get by the 32 of Matthew Rodriguez, who we really haven't talked about all race long. He's been just trying to keep this up. No, Ronzi goes around to the 8.
And he's going to hit that wall a ton. I think he got the tires there.
He might be stuck.
Oh, man, hard lick there for Joseph Causey, who I was just about to comment was having a great run after early issues. And that Budweiser Chevrolet, hard impact to the left front.
He actually held the brake enough, I think, to where it was a little bit of a tap. Yes, it would looked a little bit brutaler than it could have been. Looked like he might have been stuck, but able to get out of the tires and continue running. Very lucky for this 8 machine that he didn't have to tow to pit road.
Boy, close call there for Joseph Causey. And yeah, I mean, I'm shocked that car doesn't have more damage than it does, because that car just shot the right side of the screen there at almost full speed. And if he was able to get that thing swowed up in time and come away with minimal damage, that's an absolute miracle.
Yeah, it really is. And these drivers, the drivers up front, they've got to be feeling a little bit irritated on the fact that we're not able to go green for a longer stint. That the drivers of Bo Brady and Blaine Atkin, they want this thing to go green so they can try to make a push forward. Drivers coming to the pits, though, looks like Tom Bourne as well as Jason Hounshell coming to the pits and others.
Take a look here and And we're back here to racing at Phoenix. We apologize for the technical difficulties as we are now halfway through the race here at Phoenix International Raceway. We are working our 8th caution of the evening. Our caution counter is going to be a little bit off here now for the remainder of this race. But Gerald Campbell continues to show the way here. And I mean, right now, Sam, it's still coming down to the question of when do you come to pit road, when do you stay out? We've still got guys like Campbell, Tyrion, Green, Whitendorf. They're still out there on 70-lap old tires.
Yeah, we had a quick caution that came out while we were off for a second there. The 21 self-spun it, and it actually has been parked for the day. So another driver done for tonight's race. And one of those things that, we saw the difficulty early and during practice, entering qualifying, same spot, out of one. That's where we saw the spin.
Just joining us, this is race number 6 of the G-Force Grand National Series, powered by the Juice Box Podcast. It's the Arizona 125. It's the midway portion of the season as well here, Sam. I mean, when we get to next week at Auto Club, it's kind of what we'll be calling the home stretch in that battle for the championship.
Yeah, and Auto Club is going to be interesting for these drivers just because of how massive that track is and how important the draft is going to be. It's kind of like going to a super speedway in a way just because of how massive the track is, but it's a little bit more technical just because of the way that the corners are and how you can save your tires.
We had that quick caution and you weren't able to see it, but Blaine Atkin, those fresh tires, he has worked his way now up to the 8th position. So he's back up inside of the top 10. And he's got a huge advantage tire-wise over the rest of the 7 drivers ahead of him.
Yeah, and just because of how massive the advantage is, it's going to be interesting how the drivers are going to have to defend, if they can even defend, to the speed that this driver is going to have.
I'm looking back through the field here, and you can touch on this if I'm incorrect. It looks like maybe Tom Bourne and Jason Hounshell may have come down and made their first pit stops of the day tire-wise.
Yeah, 2 cautions ago, they came in both themselves, and also you could throw in Robert Kenny, who came in. It looks like Tom Bourne and Jason Hounshell decided to go with 4 tires, getting their 4 tires, as well as Robert Kenny. So they're going to be drivers to watch out for with the freshest of tires compared to the rest of the field.
Green flag back in the air, 55 laps to go, now 54 as Campbell hits the start-finish line. Closing in on 50 to go here at Phoenix as Campbell has dominated this race. He has led every lap so far. Question is, can he lead the most important one? As Campbell's looking not only for back-to-back wins, but also his league-leading 3rd win of the season.
Yeah, Gerald Campbell has just been looking extremely quick. He came in with an average starting position of 1, got another pole position here today, and he hasn't looked back at all as the battle for 4th place underway, as it looks like Jake Hounshell is going to be able to get by John Whitendorf, as well as Dallas Myhan's making some moves, but Blaine Atkin up to 7th, about to be up to 6th.
Blaine Atkin was a little frustrated right there momentarily as Seth Harrelson and Dallas Myhan, they were battling at the time for 6th. And Blaine Atkin wanted to get by with the fresh tires, but he was completely walled in. As up ahead, he's walled in again. That's Hounshell and Whitendorf continuing to battle for that 4th position.
And they got to be careful. If they start door banging at all during this moment, they could find spinning one of each other out, or even both together as Hounshell drifts up just a little bit as Whitendorf has to move up. And that's going to be losing time for these drivers. And Dallas Myhan, he's really got nowhere to go and kind of a sitting duck to the 05.
Almost had a car back there looking 3 wide. That was the fresh tires of Tom Bourne back in the 14th position, trying to get up there with Kyle Johnson in the 88, who also has fresh tires but sustained that damage from an incident a couple of cautions ago.
Shane Terrian almost able to make the pass. Our top 3 all on top of one another. You're going to put a blanket over them as we're 3 wide back for 4th place.
We are. That is Atkin on the bottom. In the middle was Hounshell. It was Whitendorf on the top. He's going to clear this group. It's now Dallas Myhan on the top side. They settle it back out to double wide. Woo, car on the apron back there. Rocky Boyd gets a little loose, trying to get to the inside of Harrelson. Here comes Bo Brady to his outside.
And Shane Terrian's able to make the pass for the lead up front. He was going to lead that lap. So Gerald Campbell no longer leading every single lap. That 38 to the front.
Jeff Green now trying to take advantage. He looks to the inside of Campbell for 2nd place as they head down through the dog leg of the back straightaway.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Shane Terrian, he's just been sitting in the back and waiting while Gerald Campbell has been trying to pull away from the field at every restart, and he's looking a little loose out of that corner, able to save it for the 25.
Let's not forget, we mentioned that Gerald Campbell has spent all of this time out in front. He's had that clean air. That's the first time today he's had to deal with his car being back in traffic. That might have been what caused that little bit of a loose sensation off the corner.
Car that's dropping back quick. Dallas Myhan in the 41 might have had some issues as he's lost a lot of positions to Rocky Boyd, Bo Brady, and others now going to be swarmed by Hank Steinmiller, Tom Bourne, and Kyle Johnson.
He's obviously got those old tires, but I think he may have also brushed the wall off of turn 4 a couple of laps ago, which slowed a lot of his momentum. Now he's going to try and get back to the bumper of Bo Brady, looking for 9th. Here comes Bourne, though. The fresh tires close right up to his bumper.
Yeah, Tom Bourne leading the cars with the freshest of tires. Going to be 14 lap-old tires compared to everyone else that is 26 or older. So this 54 machine, someone to watch out for. And you know, sometimes when you see a car dig in so hard into corner number 3 through the center of 3 and 4, they can drift up. And I thought for a second Bourne was about to drift up into Dallas there.
We got a car that's back here running kind of by his lonesome. That's the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. Kind of surprised. I mean, we know that he got a little bit of an incident earlier on in this race. Didn't sustain a lot of damage from it, though, but he's not been able to fight his way back up into the top 15 yet. Is he riding, maybe saving some fuel?
He might be saving fuel, but also I think he might have just sustained more damage. His last time he came into the pits, he did only take fuel for this 3 machine, so that possibility is there for these drivers, but it's hard to tell what the 3 is doing at the moment.
Out of line for 2nd place continues between Gerald Campbell and Jeff Green. You've got them lined up nose to tail. 3 cars from 4th back to 6th. with Whitendorf, Akin, and Houndshell, and this is where the spirited battle's going on right now. You got Rocky Boyd trying to hold off the fresh tires of both Bo Brady and Tom Bourne.
Yeah, Bo Brady was holding off the first of the drivers that decided to take tires, and now he's going to be hunted here by Tom Bourne, who's on the freshest of tires. And this is where really whoever can win this battle between the 20 and the 54, they're going to be the ones that are going to be leading this race once you see the rest of the field come to the pits.
I'd say that would qualify as a slide job there. Blaine Atkin to the inside of John Whitendorf, slid right up in front of him there in turn 1, so he'll move up to 4th. Now Whitendorf and Houndshell, they're going to battle side by side for the 5th position. Jake Houndshell trying to use that second groove, and Rocky Boyd almost stuck his nose in there 3 wide.
This is getting a little concerning for the drivers that have not pitted yet. We haven't seen this long of a green flag run in a while. And if we stay green to the end, they're all going to have to pit. Well, the drivers that have already pitted, it's going to be a battle between Bo Brady and Tom Bourne here as they're looking to go 3 wide as Whitendorf drifting up just slightly into Rocky Boyd.
Ooh, close there as you saw Jeff Green, Gerald Campbell. They're battling for second place. Give the advantage to Green for the moment. Boyd darts out to the inside there on Jake Houndshell. Drove it a little too deep, gets into the side.
Contact again between the 02 and the 77. We've seen this before, and that was something that we're probably going to continue to see between the 02 and the 77 as that rivalry might continue to build up.
Just can't seem to stay away from each other, and it seems to be at the somewhat mile racetracks where they seem to be in the same area and make some contact with each other as Boyd now moves to 5th, Brady into 6th, and that's wadded him up back here again with Houndshell and Whitendorf still battling. You got Bourne back here, Harrelson, Dallas Myhan starting to get back up into the conversation again.
Yeah, if anything, Bourne is being held up so much. He just continues to get boxed in. Every single time he puts a car somewhere, he is just someone else is boxing him so he can't make a move on anyone else, continuing to be side by side in front of him.
There is no other lane. The second groove has been rubbered in. Drivers have been utilizing that to their advantage, but there's no place higher than that where there's any grip to be found. So right now, Tom Bourne's kind of at the mercy of the cars in front of him to see which lane's going to get the advantage. Finally, Houndshell clears Whitendorf. Bourne can go to work to the top side of the 02.
Yeah, and now Bourne's going to be able to try to make that pass as Bo Brady now trying to run down Rocky Boyd as the drivers behind him continue to battle on. Tom Bourne now side by side here with Houndshell, and looks like he has made that pass. Now moving to the inside. The 54 machine's now moving.
Shane Tyrion's out in front, Jeff Green in second. We know that Shane Tyrion was on pit road under an earlier caution, topped off the fuel tank, so he can go further than Green and Campbell, who have not been to pit road since the initial start of the race.
He's spun around by the 3, and it goes the 8 machine caution up back in the air.
And that just threw everything I was going to ask out the window, so never mind. As Joseph Causey, third incident he's been involved in today, going to bring out this yellow flag with less than 40 laps to go.
I think now is the time that you might be seeing a lot of these drivers that haven't pitted to come in. The biggest issue is they're going to be having over about 15 machines staying in front of them. That's a lot of traffic that these drivers are going to have to cut their way through.
If you're Blaine Atkin, Bo Brady, any of these guys, do you maybe come down pit road as well, take on another set of tires and be on equal footing with these guys?
No, I think you kind of have to wait until there's about 30 or less laps. If you've already pitted, maybe even 20 laps if you want to try to make that chance, but you have to really want that advantage, and it's a risky call to put yourself into the pits with so many cars that have already pitted that look they're good to the end.
Here they come down pit road, and there you see there's some takers, and there's some that are staying out. Brady stays out, Bourne stays out, but Blaine Atkin in the 05 did decide to come to pit road.
Yeah, and that is looking to see a lot of drivers I was not expecting to see coming into the pits, and a lot of drivers I was expecting to staying out. I mean, Rocky Boyd trying with that machine that looks like he's been bogged down at times with that damage that he's sustained, still looking good.
Let's take a look at the incident here off of turn 2, and it was actually a 3-wide situation gone wrong. That's Jason Houndshell on the top side. Causey was in the middle, Morse Jr. on the bottom. Just a little contact there to the left rear of the Budweiser Chevrolet. Lifts it around out of turn 2 and onto the back straightaway. Nobody hits him, though. No harm, no foul. Everybody, for the most part, keeps going, and we're getting ready for yet another restart with less than 40 to go. We actually be probably closing in on the 30 to go mark when we eventually do get the green flag.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting because 30 laps, that's just enough laps, I think, for these drivers that have pitted and going to be making their charge through the field. Gerald Campbell's going to be back in 12th place. He's got to cut his way through a lot of drivers that most likely are going to be battling, blocking, and trying to hold their lines because they've already used their tires. And unless the caution comes out, I don't think a lot of these drivers are going to have to use their tires, saving it just in case they have to.
You see that 20 of Bo Brady up there, and we've already documented the momentum he has been on the last couple of weeks. But I'll tell you what I love here, Sam, is the fact that you alluded to it. Back at Bristol, last week at Las Vegas, he's kind of followed the same strategy of come down earlier than everybody else, utilize the opportunity later on to be able to gain that track position back. He came up short at Bristol. He came up short at Las Vegas. That has not wavered him from going away from that strategy. Back at it again the following week at Phoenix, and who knows? At some point, you get the feeling this 20 car is going to pull that win off.
I mean, if you look at the pattern that's been going on for Bo Brady, the first time at Bristol, he was passed with 2 laps to go. Last week, he was passed with a half a lap to go. This could be the race that Bo Brady gets it done if he can get up front, pull away, and we stay green.
It'll be Rocky Boyd who'll be the leader when we go back green. He is only the 3rd driver to lead a lap here today. Campbell led the first 75 or so, and then Shane Tyrion got around him to lead up to this point. Boyd now out in front and will lead us back here for this restart. Brady in 2nd, Tom Bourne in 3rd, Hank Steinmiller in 4th, Kyle Johnson 5th, and it's Robert Kenny, Christopher Morse Jr., Matthew Rodriguez, Peyton Hill, and Joseph Causey going to be the top 10. The fresh tires of Gerald Campbell and Shane Tyrion going to restart just outside the top 10. In 11th and 12th, Jeff Green, John Whitendorf, Seth Harrelson. That's going to be the top 15 when we get back Green Flag Racing, which is going to be this time.
We've seen Campbell just a little bit in dirty air. His car did not look comfortable for this 25 machine. We'll see how he can cut through the field. Shane Tyrion, we've seen him cut through the field already. Can he do it again here? He's done it twice. He's got to do it for the 3rd time. Rocky Boyd ready for the green flag. Green flag back in the air, and it's going to be Hank Steinmiller that does not take off. That hurts Johnson and others.
Stack them up from 4th position on back there with Johnson, Kenny, Christopher Morse Jr., all nose to tail through 1 and 2. Top 3 have scampered away for the moment.
And now we wait and see, as right now Gerald Campbell not liking what he's seeing in front of him, side by side in front. That's a wall, but they're wrecking behind. Dallas Myhand out of 1.
It's Dallas Myhand in the 41 machine. You're right, as it's like he may have avoided disaster. Doesn't look like anybody hit him. So caution's going to fly yet again. The cautions we've had the last couple of times, that's actually taken a car 3 laps down. Shane Lake put him back on the lead lap, and I believe now the lucky dog machine under this caution is going to be the 85 of James Goshen, who is 16 down to the leader.
And Goshen at one point was all the way back at, I believe, 31st position, but due to his adversity, staying out there on track, finds himself in 23rd place. So a great rebound for a driver that had awful luck for the first 20 laps.
Well, Dallas Myhead has kept himself up in the top 10, top 15 all day long, trying to cut down that points lead between himself and Gerald Campbell, and here it was just off on the back straightaway. Off the exit of turn 2. Nobody hit him, just that car getting a little bit loose.
And looking at how this caution and when it came out, this is just helping those front 5 drivers. This is going to give Hank Steinmiller another chance at this restart to try to help himself out. But this is great for Rocky Boyd, Bo Brady, and Tom Bourne, because now that's less laps for the drivers that have the freshest tires to try to cut their way through the field.
Exactly. Those guys up there that were able to gain the track position with staying out, they want to keep seeing these little spurts. A little bit of green flag run, then caution. A little bit of green flag run, then caution. Guys like Campbell, Tyrion, and Green back there, they want this thing to go green to the end.
Yeah, they really do. They need it to go green. They've cut their way through, I believe, 2 positions as Gerald Campbell started back in 12th place, has moved his way up to 10th, but he needs really a lot more time to work with as Goshen gets his lap back. It's going to be leaving him 15 laps down at the moment. But Rocky Boyd's looking good, but Bo Brady got a great launch and actually stayed with the 77. If it stayed green for another 3 laps, I think Bo Brady might have had a shot at the 77 there.
You talked about Gerald Campbell. We saw how good he was out in front, but then how he struggled when he got back in traffic. We've seen Rocky Boyd be aggressive, working his way up through the field, but we've yet to really see what he's able to do in terms of keeping the field behind him when out in front. So it'll be interesting to see if Bo Brady does get up to his back bumper, what Rocky Boyd's able to do to try and hold him at bay. Same for the tires of Tom Bourne back there, Hank Steinmiller, and Kyle Johnson. So right now, we've got 23 cars on the lead lap, 25 cars running. We actually just had a car give up a top 10 restarting position. That's Matthew Rodriguez. He just came to pit road. Looks like he might be taking on a set of tires.
Set of tires, a little bit of repairs for the 32 machine, and this could be Rodriguez's final set of tires, which, if we stay green, this is a great opportunity for himself to maybe try to gain some positions. But Matthew Rodriguez has been notoriously known for himself to be the car that waits for the rest of the field to wreck out and really pounce on that opportunity.
Well, if you look at the case of James Goshen the last 2 weeks, yeah, I mean, at least keep yourself in the race. You never know what kind of a finish you're going to come away with. So far, James Goshen has picked up 7 spots after spending nearly 15 minutes on pit road getting repairs done earlier on in this race. Is Rocky Boyd going to come back around here to get us back underway? Lights are out atop the pace car. Bo Brady, Tom Bourne, Hank Steinmiller, and Kyle Johnson. That's going to be the top 5 when we go back green. And I would have to say, Sam, not just based on today's race, but based on races in the past and just based on races in general. We know that when we get down the closing stages of this race, there's a lot more take than give. I think that the strategy that these guys up at the front are hoping for having a few more cautions before the end of this race, it very well could happen.
Well, we've seen the bumpers already been used in the middle portion of this race. Will we see a bump and run from Bo Brady onto Rocky Boyd? You know, Bo Brady, he's been feeling the wind really going through his fingertips every single week, it feels like. Will it be this time? Green flag back in the air. Rocky Boyd brings us to the green.
Again, for the second straight restart, it's Hank Steinmiller who does not get going. He's now got Kyle Johnson all over his back bumper for 4th.
I'm looking back at 8th place, and it's going to be Peyton Hill that is blocking hard on Gerald Campbell, and Campbell looks frustrated trying to find his way through. Shane Terrian on the outside. For those drivers, leading the freshest of those is Bo Brady, now moving up to the front and right on the back bumper of the 77.
We saw last week at Las Vegas, you can only block fresh tires so long. I go back to the incident with Blaine Akin and Kyle Johnson last week, where the both
in the back.
Oh,
that's going to be the 4 and also the 5. Huge wreck up in the front stretch.
Oh, man, James Roth almost got down into those barrels at the entrance of pit road. Dallas Myhan's been collected up in this one again. Also, DeMarzo 5.
Yeah, it looked like the 16 and the 4 were initially involved. Then the 41 and the 8 and the 5 were collected in this as well. I think the hardest collision would be going to Roth, losing the back bumper into the water barrels.
A bad day gets worse for Dallas Myhan, second in points.
Yeah, I mean, also most of those drivers that were involved in this have been involved in multiple cautions in this race, so gotta watch out as the admins might throw in a hammer saying, "Hey, you're parked for being involved in too many wrecks."
Look at what happened. Watch the 4 of James Roth there. He's going to cross over Guarneri. Dallas Myhan there. Oh, wow. It looks like the 16 got a little loose there, and there just was no reaction time for Roth in the 4.
Yeah, there's just nothing you can do in those types of moments. When a car gets loose, you just can't react fast enough. These machines and the brakes that they have, they're not meant to stop immediately. They're meant to just slow down for a second. And Rocky Boyd trying to play some mind games up front, faking out that he was going to be coming into the pits, and no one's expecting anyone up front coming to the pits. Just track position, way too important. Shane Terrian able to move up at least 2 positions, but Gerald Campbell losing a position for himself, going back to 11th place. So not looking good for Gerald Campbell to come back up front through up the field when we're coming to probably about 25 laps to go once we go green again.
We saw the stack up there with Causey, DeMarzo, and Dallas Myhan on the viewpoint of the 41. Caution waving here again, and looks like we're going to be going back green somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 23 laps to go here at Phoenix.
And really, I think our top 3 best positions so far. If Steinmiller can't get a great restart, as he's been showing, he's been struggling at getting a lot of wheel spin. I think this could be our top 3, just pulling away and running away from this thing. I don't think there's enough time for Shane Terrian to run these drivers down, especially with the fact that there isn't that much of a difference in the tires. I mean, yes, there's 20 lap difference, but it seemed like even with a 50 lap difference, some of these drivers were struggling to cut their way through the traffic and field.
And based on what we saw there on that run, we saw Peyton Hill holding up Shane Tyrion, Gerald Campbell, and whatnot. You're going to have to probably go to that second groove to work your way back to the front. These guys up here, they are not going to give you the bottom if they can help it.
Yeah, and we've seen, Tyrion be able to make that outside groove work previously in the race, but right now, I mean, Hill has been doing a great job blocking, defending, and also, if you just go side by side with the car in front of you, that is completely clogging up the track for any opportunity. That just means the car behind you has got to be gutsy and try to force it 3 wide into these corners and force someone else to back out and not themselves.
With that caution coming out, James Goshen gets another lap, so now he will be 14 laps down to the race leaders. Still one of 2 drivers that are off the lead lap, as we did have pretty much every driver that was caught up in that incident come down pit road. Joseph Causey, Dallas Myhan, James Roth, all down the pit road, as well as I believe Matthew Rodriguez came down, got a little bit more damage repaired on that 32 machine.
And looking at the field, Goshen now 14 laps down, going to be in 24th position. And just the way that this race is going, I don't think that 85 machine is going to be getting any more positions unless we see someone wreck out immediately so he can get at least a position or more. But we are more so looking at seeing how are these drivers up front, if we can stay green, because all the wrecks have been on the drivers that have been on the back half of the field, as they've been getting very gutsy at trying to make some moves because they know this is their last time to really make some passes unless we stay green. I think all the drivers up front, it's about how well of a restart can you get. And Blaine Atkin, one of those drivers that we know can make very good restarts, he's back all the way back in 13th position. Looks like he might be out of too far back to even have a chance to battle for the lead.
Yeah, I think that to your question, it has to go green to the end here for Shane Tyrion to have a shot. You can pick up 1 or 2 spots here under these short green flag runs, but that's not going to be enough to get you up here to the front of the field, because Phoenix is one of those tracks where you have to set up the pass to be able to execute it. As the green flag back in the air, the battle looks like it's going to be for the 3rd position. Steinmiller finally got himself a good restart.
That's exactly what this 63 needed. A great restart, but Brocky Boyd gets up into the wall. He's given an opportunity. Boyd, but no, Bo Brady not able to go and believe the wreck might have happened in the center of the field as they're all wrecking back here.
AJ DiMarzo is the reason for this caution coming off of turn 2. Not certain if Matthew Rodriguez and James Goshen, if they were just slowing down to avoid him or not, but the 5 car is the reason this yellow flag is out.
The 5 got a little bit of help from the 32 machine and Matthew Rodriguez, and it looked like both drivers kind of bogged up, and the 5 got out of shape, gave the opportunity to 32, and then 32 kind of started to drift up, and might have been slight contact from Dallas Myhan into the 32. I think it just looked like the 32 got on the gas a little bit too early and drifted up into the 5.
Kind of one of those cases where 32 wanting to get back to the throttle, the car kind of drifts up off the corner. The 5, on the other hand, trying to make sure he doesn't hit the wall off of turn 2 and comes down the racetrack. We see this all the time at the 1.5-mile tracks, and kind of a case of that here off of turn 2 as well. AJ DiMarzo just trying to finish out this race. Looks like he's destined to finish in the 25th position unless something happens to James Goshen, who's 5 laps ahead of him. But DiMarzo just trying to finish out this race here today at Phoenix. It's been a kind of a crazy one for him.
The driver feels like he needs to come in and it might get repairs or even tires. It's going to be Robert Kenny, who is running up in 8th place. He's going to be dropping all the way back to the end of the field after coming into the pits now.
I believe he's pitting from the 6th position. He was up inside beginning of the second half of the top 10. So that's a lot of positions that 34 car is giving up. Actually, looks like it might have been a 4-tire stop here. Sam might have been taking on that final set.
I don't like that call. I think that is a very risky call for the 34 machine. I mean, you have the track position. If the way that these yellows have been coming out, unless you start seeing the admins parking some of these drivers, I'm expecting this thing to go caution after caution here to the end because no one's giving positions. It's all about, hey, if you got an opening, I'm putting my car there, and sometimes it's going to stick. Most likely it's not.
Matthew Rodriguez got quite a bit of left front damage from that wreck. He's now fallen 2 laps down to the leader, sitting on pit road getting damage repaired. James Roth was back down pit road getting some more damage repaired on his machine. He's currently the last car on the lead lap in the 22nd position, and saw that battle brewing there just prior to the caution between Rocky Boyd and Bo Brady. So what little bit do you think that 20 car was able to put back in his memory bank for this next restart to try and get around that 77?
I think the biggest thing is the fact that Rocky Boyd put himself in that situation. He drifted up into the wall, might have scraped the wall, might be a little bit of damage on the 77. I don't think it's enough to hurt him too much, but it's the 77 that made the mistake and gave the opportunity to the 20 machine. And even though Rocky Boyd's got the fresher tires comparatively, it seems like he's got a car that's not working and not really in the style that he is wanting to be running in.
Tom Bourne right back there in the 3rd position, and we've seen how he's been patiently working his way through the field, had that spin around the midway point of this race, dropped outside the top 10 all the way to the rear of the field, now finds himself back up in 3rd, and of course picked up that win on Sunday at Pocono, so has that momentum coming into tonight's race.
Yeah, I mean, the momentum is certainly there for this 54 machine. Is, like you said, he's been being pretty patient at the moment and waiting for his opportunity to make a pass here. The main issue is the fact that Tom was being so much more pressured this time around by Steinmiller getting a great restart that put that 54 machine in a bubble to where he really lost the front 2 when Rocky Boyd was having his issues. And now Bo Brady, we'll see what this 20 machine has. He's been waiting the last 2 weeks. He's just been seeing that win just go through his fingertips. Now it's his time. He's got the best opportunity to make the pass here on the 77 machine.
And we got an issue with the 2 of Jeff Green down here in turn 3. That car is slowing. Is he out of fuel?
I think he might be out of fuel. That 2 machine is off the track. Going to be parking it and towing to pit road. Jeff Green is out. Green flag up in the air, though.
Oh man, tough break there for Jeff Green. Our Bristol winner will not be winning here today at Phoenix. As up at the front, Rocky Boyd about 2.5 car lengths back to Bo Brady, then another 2 car lengths back to Tom Bourne. They're battling around the 15th position, but up here at the front, everybody's spread out.
Yeah, they're starting to spread out a little bit here. We're waiting to see who's going to be making that move forward. Haven't really gotten to see a lot of green flag action as the cars with the freshest of tires on track. Shane Terrian back in 8th place, still blocked by Peyton Hill. And also, that's going to be now bringing in John Whitendorf for this battle back here.
This is a 3-way battle for the 7th position. Hill in the 84, Tyrion the 38, Whitendorf the 33, Gerald Campbell the pole sitter, the guy that led the first half of this race. Now he enters into this battle, currently holding down the 10th position.
Bo Brady's there. He's right on the bumper of the 77. Rocky Boyd's got to be careful here because Bo Brady is hounding for a chance.
If either one of them make contact, Tom Bourne's right there as well to pounce. Also, Hank Steinmiller within striking distance as those 4 nose to tail down the back straightaway headed for 3. We're closing in on 15 to go. Brady drives it deep, but Boyd throws the block.
The big thing is that he's got very different entries into the corner. It's looking like Rocky Boyd's entry is a little bit of a higher arc, which is giving Bo Brady the chance to put his nose underneath the 77.
We're going to keep the camera up here at the front, but we do have a battle for 5th right now. Christopher Morse Jr. looking to the inside of Kyle Johnson as Brady onto the bumper of the 77. He'll jump to the outside line down the back straightaway.
Yeah, I think that's the better spot to put himself in. Of course, spinning the 88. That's going to be Kyle Johnson getting bumped, and the 2 involved as well. Here comes also Campbell.
Campbell going to get damage with the front end of his machine. Caution's going to fly. Question is, who had the race lead when the caution came out between Brady and Boyd?
I think it might be Brady. I believe Bo Brady might have thrown it in hard enough to get that bleed as they were side by side. Brady on the outside, and once that's a little bit of contact between those drivers, but we're waiting to see what the ultimate result, and it looks like the 77 might be battling back.
We'll wait and see officially who indeed was the leader when that caution came out. Looks like actually it may have been the 20 car. We'll have to wait and see. Those 2 made contact going into turn 3. And when the dust settled with the contact between Kyle Johnson and Christopher Morse Jr., Shane Tyrion now finds himself up in the 5th position as we're going to be getting a restart somewhere around the 10 lap to go vicinity. But let's go back and see what happened just inside of the top 10.
Yeah, Kyle Johnson just trying his best here, but contact getting him loose. And really, no one else had an opportunity to get out of that situation. I think he actually might have been hard I mean, that's just an odd situation with the 88 car there.
He was trying to block Christopher Morse Jr. down there to the inside. Morse Jr. having none of it. Bumped him in the back. And it looked like he got that 88 loose. He then drifts back up. And it got saved by Christopher Morse Jr., but then slid up, as you documented, got the front end of Gerald Campbell. So we're going to have to see how much damage was sustained on that 25 and how that's going to affect him here for the closing stages. I mean, undoubtedly looked like the car that was going to maybe take this checkered flag today, but getting involved in this wreck, losing a lot of track position a while ago, it's looking less and less like he might be able to go back to back.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Gerald Campbell, who continues to really not have the best of finishes here at the short tracks. It's the mile and a half where we've been seeing Gerald Campbell, that 25 machine, get his 2 wins at. And now not looking good, but he's still getting opportunity to get a top 10 finish here for the 25 machine. Still got the speed and also the fresher tires to be making some moves, but he's got some hungry drivers behind him that are willing to make some very bold and aggressive passes as well. But when this caution came out, this is now giving Shane Terrian a chance, but a very slim chance to get up front, because now he's going to pass 4 drivers here, and most likely there's not enough laps for it to be done.
There's the wreck right there, and you can clearly see when the caution was thrown by a nose, Bo Brady was indeed out in front there going into turn 3, which is why he is going to be the one to get us back underway when we go back green here at Phoenix. Boyd will be behind him in second, with Tom Bourne third, Hank Steinmiller fourth, Shane Terrian in fifth, and yeah, we're having some connection problems here for the 20. That's not what he wants to have happen right now.
No, absolutely not. This is the worst time to have internet issues, because if the field does not know when the 20 is going to take off on the green, there could be a penalty served to the 20 of Bo Brady. Looks like he might have figured it out, but that is a very nerve-wracking spot, especially when we're just about to go green.
Now, speaking of green, this caution is going to give a lap back to Jeff Green, who, as we mentioned, ran out of fuel over there in turn 3 just prior to the last restart. So he will now be -1. He's obviously going to need another caution to come out to be back on the lead lap. Right now, Jeff Green currently back in the 22nd position. 21 drivers on the lead lap. Dallas Myhan, the last of those, and we're getting ready to go back green with what officially is going to be 11 laps to go. Oh boy, I mentioned that Rocky Boyd, we know how aggressive he is when he's trying to make passes. How is he going to be with this 20 car in front of him who just edged him for the lead when that last caution came out?
Most of these drivers up front, we've seen them week after week. We have not seen Shane Terrian in this 38 machine and how he's going to react on these restarts, as he's going to be in 5th place. Bo Brady, will we see heartbreak for the 3rd week in a row? Or will he finally get that win? Green flag out the air, 11 laps to go. Bo Brady leads the way. Rocky Boyd trying to stay close to possibly battle back.
If Brady is going to have that heartbreak suffered, it's going to come at the hands of somebody 5th place on back, I do believe, because he has seemed to be faster than the other 4 drivers behind him of Boyd, Bourne, and Steinmiller, who now is actually under fire as Steinmiller from Shane Terrian. He's going to take the 4th position on that second groove.
If Terrian can get a pass every lap, he's going to be right there on Bo Brady's bumper. Tom Bourne now going to be trying to make a chance here on Rocky Boyd, but they're 3 wide, back for 8th place, and they continue to stay 2 wide. This is where we might see a caution. Gerald Campbell, Kyle Johnson, and Blaine Atkin continue to battle back and forth.
Blaine Atkin had to bail as he had to
Tom Bourne into the wall, giving Terrian an opportunity on the outside.
And it's going to be a pass for 3rd, so move the 38 up another spot to 3rd place. Bourne going to battle back on the inside line there off of 4, though.
Yeah, he's just not close enough. That's going to give the better tires of Shane Terrian up to 3rd place now. And this is now looking scary. Deja vu for Bo Brady once again, possibly.
9 laps to go here. Shane Terrian 3rd place with the fresher tires. Now has to deal with Rocky Boyd in the 77 to make a pass for the 2nd spot. This going on currently about 0.6 of a second behind the 20 of Bo Brady, who is hoping these are the fastest 9 laps of his life.
Shane Terrian, he's got to be aggressive here. We know that Rocky Boyd is willing to be aggressive, but the waiting game as they're trying to somehow run down Bo Brady, but it looks like Rocky Boyd, he might be getting a little too antsy here. Shane Terrian still being patient as there's still plenty of time for him to try to make this pass, but will those tires equal out? right now, Bo Brady and Rocky Boyd have been out there for over 60 lap on those tires. Shane Terrian for 30.
You see how Shane was able to drive it deep there into 3. Just couldn't quite get back to the throttle through the center there, though. He's been able to get alongside the right rear quarter panel of Rocky Boyd, but hasn't been able to keep alongside of him just yet.
Yeah, you talked about how all these drivers in front of the fresher tires, they're going to have to make the fresher tires. Cars caution, though, comes out, and that's going to be the 8 machine of Causey once again.
Joseph Causey spins it around, this time again out of turn 1, entering into turn 2. Now the question is, I was wondering if a caution comes out, is that something Bo Brady wants to see or doesn't want to see?
I mean, the hard part is if Rocky Boyd can get a good restart as well as Shane Terrian, this could be hurting him, but the timing of this caution, I think this could be helping the 20 machine out because they're going to be down to, I believe, maybe 4 or 5 laps to go, maybe even less than, maybe 3 laps to go here. But Joseph Causey getting some help on this caution by the 0-2.
SJ Counshell trying to make a pass on him, drives it deep into 1 and just the slightest bit of contact. Then Robert Kenny sideswipes Joseph Causey, sending him up into the outside wall there in turn 1. But the thing I was noticing is when I was commenting on the fact that Shane Terrian was not really able to get to the outside of Rocky Boyd for second place, Boyd was actually closing the gap up again between himself and Bo Brady for the race lead. So this is going to be interesting.
I think that's where the patience was coming from with Terrian, was understanding, hey, we're catching him. I don't need to force this issue just yet. We'll wait it out. But now the pressure's on. With this caution coming out, it's going to be less than 5 laps to go once we go green again. And looking back at drivers that have fresh tires, Robert Kenny, we talked about that odd time that he came into the pits. It put him back around 20th, 21st position. He's now up to 14th place. And if we stay green, that 34 machine can find himself a top 10 finish here.
Certainly could. Kenny making his first start of the season. It's been a good one. He's been up there in the top 15 all day, was up in the top 10 for most of the second half of this race as Matthew Rodriguez, he's going around to get a lap back. I thought Jeff Green was going to be the recipient of the free pass here, but apparently that is not the case for the 2 car. Rodriguez will get one of his 10 laps back now, puts him -9. And we talked about the drivers having to deal with the track here today, Sam, but a thing that you always seem to touch on when we get to the closing stage of this race is the mental fatigue for these drivers, but how even more so is it for Bo Brady? I mean, he's now completed 121 laps. He's out in front, but how do you put the past 2 weeks into the back of your mind and not think about that here coming up on this restart with another victory on the line?
Yeah, it's almost exactly what we saw last week now. We're coming to almost a green-white checkered finish here. And that's exactly what we saw back at Las Vegas with Gerald Campbell. Campbell had the fresher tires. He was able to make the 2 passes that were necessary for the win. And Bo Brady, I mean, he's done this strategy for the last 2 weeks. Now again here at Phoenix, being one of the first cars to pit, then trying to run up front, stay up front for most of the race, and then the drivers that pit later in the race, they make that late charge and find themselves right there. But like I said, back at Bristol, it was a 2 laps to go when we saw Jeff Green make that pass. Now, I mean, last week it was Gerald Campbell with about a half a lap that made the pass for the win. Is there now enough time for Bo Brady to possibly hold off Shane Terrian, that's going to be coming with a hard charging fresher tires in that 38 machine?
And we have to remember that last week in Las Vegas, too, there were a lot more options. There were 3 lanes that were viable for drivers to use. We saw Campbell use the 3rd lane to get up there to Bo Brady to eventually make the pass. Here today, there's really only 2 lanes that are available to you, and really, if you're the driver with the fresh tires, you've got to take the longer way around the racetrack, that second groove, because there's no way Bo Brady or Rocky Boyd are going to give up that inside line unless Terrian's able to kind of force them out there, either through making a late move into the corner or maybe bumping them out of the way. So it may be a little bit more easier for Bo Brady to play defense here in the closing stages, but we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out, as Brady's going to be the leader coming back here to what's going to be an in-race green-white checkered. Boyd lines up second, Shane Terrian in third, Tom Bourne and John Whitendorf the top 5, then it's Steinmiller, Campbell the pole sitter, Atkin, Morse Jr., and Harrelson the top 10. Here we go, Sam, 2 more laps.
And Rocky Boyd got right on the 20s bumper. Shane Terrian kind of backing off. getting a little bit more of a run into the corner. We'll have to wait and see if this is an advantage or disadvantage for the 38 machine, but it's looking good for Bo Brady as Rocky Boyd, he's trying to run down this 20 machine.
77 looked a little bit better there out of turn 2. They stack up there in a battle for 4th. Tom Bourne and John Whitendorf. Can Bo Brady make it back around here to the white flag before an incident takes place? Looks like all 3 drivers run the second groove there through 3 and 4.
And who's going to get the best advantage? It looks like it goes to the 38, but he's too far back. Right now, Bo Brady, his one driver he's worried about is going to be Rocky Boyd. And Boyd coming with a head of steam. He's getting close. He's got an opportunity here. Show going into the corner, but Shane Terrian's now there.
Oh, it's going to be Tyrion and Boyd. They're going to be nose to tail for second place. Brady, I think, just has to hit his marks for these final 2 corners, and finally the redemption of the last 2 weeks will be fulfilled. Through 3 and 4, up the track a little bit, but plenty of space. He's finally done it. Bo Brady's going to be a winner here in the G-Force Sim Racing Series, the Grand National Series at Phoenix.
And it was a lot of bumping between the 38 and the 77, but Shane Terrian wins out for second place. But Bo Brady finally, after so much disappointment the last 2 weeks, finally could say that he is a winner here in this series.
Man, if you look back at the last 2 weeks, you had the question in your mind of, was there going to be a 3rd week of disappointment, a 3rd week of heartbreak? But now it's the elation. The Bobby Allison throwback number 20 is going to get to burn it down for the first time this season, and it happens here in the duel in the desert.
And really, I think that whole entire advantage was him sending it before that late caution, 2 cautions ago, when Bo Brady sent it over Rocky Boyd on the outside, made it stick, had that nose advantage before the yellow came out, and that was the reason and basically what won Bo Brady this race, because then it was all about just staying in front, get a big enough lead on the restarts, and it worked out for the 20 machine.
Absolutely agree. The interval at the line was about 4.5 tenths of a second, but to your point, it really was a photo finish that won this race. That little bit of an edge that Brady had over Rocky Boyd when that caution came out, to have him be the one controlling the restarts here, coming to the checkered flag as Bo Brady gets ready to celebrate in victory lane here at Phoenix. What a win, and I cannot wait to hear this victory lane interview. We're going to take a look here now at the finishing results, and a great performance here for Shane Terrian in his first start, bringing it home with a runner-up spot. Rocky Boyd bringing it home in 3rd, John Whitendorf 4th, and Tom Bourne completing the top 5. Gerald Campbell, after he lost the lead, it just didn't seem like that 25 was able to have the speed he had early on. He'll still finish in 6th, which is going to continue to extend his points lead after a couple of drivers behind him in points struggled here today. Blaine Atkin in 7th, Hank Steinmiller 8th, Christopher Morse Jr. will be 9th, and Seth Harrelson is going to complete the top 10. We're going to take a look here through the rest of your finishing results, as we had a total of 20 drivers finish on the lead lap, and I believe we had a total of 24, make that 25 drivers that were running at the conclusion of this race. Tough break there for Jeff Green, running out of fuel under pacing. He finishes 1 lap down in the 21st position. And here you see the rest of the finishing results from today's event. As we're now going to go down trackside, we're going to get some interviews with our top 3 finishers. And let's see if we can kick things off with the 3rd place finisher. That is Rocky Boyd.
I tried to make it.
Rocky, it's set up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, what a last couple of restarts there. You were up inside of the top 3, top 2, pretty much the entire last third of this race. Almost had a shot to win this thing. What little more do you need there on that final green-white checker?
I wish we would have had better tires there at the end, but it is what it is. We gave it all we had there, and Bo Brady did a really good job.
You know, we saw here today drivers, in order to make a pass, they either had to use the second groove or they kind of had to use their race car to move drivers out of the way. We saw a little bit of contact between you and Bo Brady for the race lead. How difficult was it racing here today to make passes, just based on the fact it seemed like it was a 2-groove track and everybody didn't want to give up the bottom?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy tonight on everybody, but you could really work that middle groove to pass, which was a lot of fun to see some good multi-groove racing.
Well, Rocky, a tremendous run for you here this evening. You came into this race 21st in the standings. I believe this is actually going to point you up into the top 20. So now what's the mindset shifting gears into an entirely different track, the 2 Mile Super Speedway of Auto Club next week?
Yeah, we just got to find some speed to start the weekend, and then hopefully we can get some green flag runs in where we can use tire management to our advantage.
Well, Rocky Boy brings it home 3rd place here today at Phoenix. A great run for you here in the desert. Rocky, we're going to turn the microphone over to you, let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to Bo Brady there for that amazing battle at the end there, and Christopher Morris for running an awesome league over here at G-Force.
Well, that's Rocky Boyd. That's his first top 5 finish of the season. 3rd place here today at Phoenix. Congratulations on a great run there, Rocky. Go enjoy it. We look forward to seeing you carry this momentum into California next week.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a great night.
And let's get our 2nd place finisher, Shane Tyrion. Hey, Shane, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
I got you.
Wow, crazy race here today. We saw you kind of roll the dice. You came down pit road, took on a little extra fuel, had to fight your way back up into the top 10, then went off sequence with the tires and almost pulled it off here. What little more did you need to have there on that final green-white checkered, or did you need this thing to go into a long green flag run to the end and not have those short spurts?
I definitely didn't need that last yellow because I was just trying to pick off the 77. I don't know if he was mad at the 20 because he was trying to like drive in there and hit him. I don't know, but man, I didn't need that last yellow. I was just gonna, once I got past the 77, I was able to get the 20. But yeah, that was fun. Starting 29th. Never raced these cars. I think I've only done like 1 race ever in these things, so it was fun.
Yeah, you mentioned about the contact that was going on up ahead of you between the 77 and the 20. So they're on that final green-white checkered. You're running in that 3rd position. Obviously, we know you had a strong car with the fresh tires. You'd been working that 2nd groove for the entirety of the 2nd half of this race. But at some point, were you also kind of having a strategy if those two got together of being able to get around them if they made contact or even if they spun?
Yeah, my strategy was if I saw it happening, I was going to enter the corner high, brake enough so if they did get in contact, I can arc it low and get back by them. But they just wasn't close enough. I think the accordion effect there on the final restart definitely won it for the 20 there. So yeah, just I'll take 2nd in my debut.
Yeah, obviously we know that you had a good car there on that 2nd groove, but it took a while for that to get rubbered in. You mentioned about the fact starting towards the back, you had some problems there in qualifying. So how difficult was it in the early stages of this race to work your way through traffic?
It was really nerve-wracking. I couldn't even get a long run in practice, so I had no idea that the top was even good. I was just running back there, and as people's tires wore off, I started moving up the track and realizing I can get on the gas a lot sooner, then feather it again, and then hammer it off the corner, and it was just fast. I never went back to the bottom again. I think after lap like 30, I never touched the bottom lane the rest of the race. So it was nerve-wracking. I had to be patient, had to keep my head on, and just get through the field because I fell back to 31st on the initial start, and then I had to drive all the way back up. So it was nerve-wracking.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch from the spectator point of view, watching you drive up there through the field. Almost pulled off the victory here. A bit of a photo finish there between yourself and the 77. You bring it home 2nd there, Shane. Congratulations. We're going to turn the mic over to you now, let you shout out some sponsors, do some thank yous.
Yeah, I want to thank Chris and let me in the league tonight. This was fun. I've been watching them. Unfortunately, I had another league when this season started, so I wasn't able to race earlier on, but and then I want to thank my sponsors, the controllers, and the Luminary guys with Kenny, myself, Tom Bourne, and Matt Rodriguez. And you guys for broadcasting. It's fun. It's fun watching it while I'm racing.
That's Shane Terry, and his debut here tonight in the Grand National Series for G-Force is a 2nd place run at Phoenix. Congratulations there, Shane.
Thank you, sir.
And down to victory lane, let's chat with race winner Bo Brady. Bo, it's Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got me?
Yes, I got you, buddy.
And, we go back to Bristol, the heartbreak there. We go to last week at Las Vegas, the heartbreak there. You finally pull it off here today
Finally.
in Phoenix. But, man, I asked this question to Sam, and I got to ask you as well. That final green-white checkered there, that restart, how difficult was it to put the past 2 weeks in the back of your mind and focus on today?
I had to just think about getting those laps done. I knew that there was a field behind me once again with newer tires. I knew that Rocky had a little bit older tires. I knew I was faster than him at the moment, but he still had something for me. He was still pushing in there deep. So it wasn't given, and I felt deja vu coming again. I felt it.
Sam and I were both agreeing. We kind of attributed the move of the race that got you this win was when that caution came out and you just barely edged the 77 going into turn 3. Do you agree with that, or do you think that if you had been second on those last couple of restarts, you still would have had something for Rocky Boy to take this victory?
I would have had something for him, but that move, it made the race. That was the only way I was really going to get by him easily because he was making it difficult.
Well, Bo, I mean, you've been on a tremendous momentum streak. Even though you didn't find victory lane the last 2 weeks, you ran well at a short track. You ran well at a 1.5 miles. You've got the win here tonight at a mile racetrack. Next week, we go to the big 2-mile track of Auto Club. Obviously, the confidence level's got to be up there, but how about maybe going back-to-back?
I'm feeling confident. I feel like I'm really getting comfortable with this car, this package. I feel like I know, the other drivers in the field. We're all ran with each other for a while now. So we're starting to understand, everyone's little kinks that they have and how they drive. So I think with all that coming together next week, I have another chance of going for a win.
Well, Bo, it's so cool to see you park that Bobby Allison throwback in victory lane. Congratulations on your first win of the season here in the Grand National Series. We're going to turn the microphone over to you now, let you do some shout-outs.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank Flatout Racing Network, Dirty Racing Podcast. I'd like to thank Chris Morris for putting on this league. And I'd like to thank Rocky for putting a heck of a race up at the end, and all the participants. Thank you guys for just making a fun league. Thank everybody.
That's Bo Brady. He finally gets it done. His first checkered flag of the season comes here in the desert at Phoenix. Congratulations there, Bo.
Thank you guys.
What a night. What a finish. Unbelievable. Sometimes you just can't write the story any better. Bo Brady, the last 2 weeks of disappointment, and finally, you heard the elation in his voice here tonight, finally closes out the deal and goes to victory lane here in the G-Force Grand National Series. What a race here tonight at Phoenix, and next week, it's just going to even get better. We're going to see them 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide, almost flat out at the wide speedway, also classified as a super speedway. It's the 2-mile West Coast track of Auto Club, but what a race here tonight at Phoenix. I appreciate Samuel Dyer for joining me in the booth here tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this evening's event. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday night as we'll be live from Auto Club beginning the home stretch, race number 7 of the season at the Auto Club Speedway. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening.